One Piece: The Legend of Creation, Chapter 641-660. 641. The Female Knight Who Protects Me. Is this really Mr. Maujihua? That graceful and luxurious, with a gentle smile on his face, is actually 1,000 miles away, with a terrifying killing heart and a compassionate heart. The noble and elegant Maujihua Lord Lai actually shows such a side. Not far away, there is a hot body that does not belong to Safenjin Yaiki at all, and only under Karatsu Uno and Ranju Matsumoto. The blonde royal sister Hibun Kiryu, who exudes a mature and capable aura, is staring wide-eyed. Lu Chengkong and Mao Zhawali, who were hugging each other, were unable to calm down for a long time, as if they were overturning the sea. If it wasn't the first time she saw this kind of picture recently, but if she saw it frequently, she would wonder if she was dazzled or hallucinated. Even now, it's still a bit difficult for her to accept it, no wonder. In her heart, Mao Zihua's strong salty strictness, nobility and inviolability have penetrated deep into her soul. It's like the first time Broken Bee sees what Yi Yi and Lu Chengkong do in Saifeng Yuan. It's a bit hard to accept. Of course it's true. It's not a big thing for mother and brother to hug each other. Do you need to be so surprised, Xiaojojo? Bachianryu doesn't know when to sit on the shoulders of Kiryu Hazun. For this little cutie and her being the goddaughter of Hana Lu, whether she likes it herself or loves the house and Wu, she likes Bachianryu very much. So she was not at all unhappy about her sitting on her shoulders. Bachanliu, I said many times don't call me Xiaojojo, this name is not very good. Hikun Kiryu blushed, when Bachanliu called Hishu Kiryu as Xiaojojo in front of Lu Chengkong. But he let including Lu Chengkong and Ujawali, almost everyone present burst into laughter, not to mention Hazun Kiryu himself. After all, Xiaojojo sounds like it is easy to think of the alias of a certain asterisk. It is a bit unacceptable to call a yellow-flowered girl who is also a mature royal sister by such a name, but it seems that she said this 8,000 streams like a child. It's still very uncomfortable for her to continue to give her this nickname just like her childish words. It's a pity that every time her corrections, including this one, still have no significant effect. Why, this name suits you very well, how cute. Baekhyun showed 2 pink blushes, plus Vivi's little cherry mouth. It looked as cute as a porcelain doll. It was really unbelievable. The tough scolding made Hikifuna Kiryu very powerless. Finally, he could only sigh again, and he could only pin his hopes on Yakiryu when he was tired of calling him that, so let's change his name. By the way, Bachanliu, who is that woman? I think she seems very strange. Sometimes she is as innocent and cute as you, very lively, and often makes a lot of jokes. Of course, this liveliness is only in front of you. Will show up. But sometimes it is calm and tranquil, giving people a sense of innocence with a hint of innocence, and also giving people a kind of heroic and never-shrinking female knight on the battlefield, and occasionally showing a big sister. This kind of caring and gentle feeling, she is very complicated to say, but very simple, and she is one of the most peculiar people I have met. Hicho Kiryu suddenly noticed that not far from Lu Chengkong stood a chrysanthemum with lake green hair, tall, plump, mature and even slightly better than himself, who seemed to never leave him. It brings a sense of oppression to myself. Obviously, this kind of oppression can only be felt by a powerhouse of the same level, or some hidden abilities of Nelia Lu can bring her a threat. Lu Chengkong, who has only survived for hundreds of years, actually gathered around him. So many are incomparably powerful. Compared with the Zero team that the Spirit King spent countless years gathering together, many people are stronger than each other. The 8,000 streams on his shoulders alone cannot be underestimated. How could this not be? Hekifuna Kiryu was surprised. Did you say Xiaolu? She's my brother's guardian female knight. Baekhyun Lucen said casually with the lollipop she took out. Do you protect the female knight? Lu Chengkong's. Of course the well-informed Kiryu Hikun understood what it meant to protect the female knight, which surprised her. To put it simply, it was a female knight who protected someone. As long as the female knight still has a breath left, then she will always protect the person she wants to protect and give Nelly a sword. She is absolutely willing to stand up for Lu Chengkong without any complaints, even if the sky has changed. When she finds darkness, she will also cut through the darkness with the sharp sword in her hand and bring light to those she protects. It can be said that he is one of the most loyal beings in the world. To get such a woman who is obviously a female knight to promise to protect him, the secrets of Lu Chengkong once again made Kiryu Hazun dumbfounded. How many secrets does he have? Ha ha. Suddenly, Nellie L turned her head and looked at Isho Hekafuna Kiryu, smiling very beautifully and kindly. Those golden green eyes were as clear as water, and this innocent look like a blank sheet of paper was enough to make people with crooked minds not have the courage to look at them. It seems that these eyes will wash away all the darkness, sins, and crooked thoughts in the heart. Even if Kiryu Hikun was looked at by Nellie Lu, he couldn't help but be shocked. This is not strength, oppression, but a natural aura. The temperament mixed in her eyes gave people an invisible feeling. What a unique temperament. Just one look is enough to make people feel good about her invisibly. It's hard to have the heart to fight with her. In a battle, her enemy sees her eyes, no matter how vigorous the battle flame is. I can't help but weaken. What a perfect female knight. Hazun Kiryu secretly praised Nellie L in his heart, and it was also the first time that he became curious about Lu Chengkong. Surrounded by such a man, there are so many national colors, beautiful, but without exception, they are all unique and powerful women with unique personality and temperament, and each of them has a heartfelt love and tenderness for him, and these arrogant women can actually get along without incident without fighting each other, as if their pride has been put down, and everything has been put down for a common man. There is no jealousy at all, they are like a big family, they are like sisters, there is no family child she saw in the Zero team. The powerful people are all arrogant and seem to be amazing. Being superior to others, it is obviously a family, but at the same time they are tit for tat, intriguing, and the Lu mansion created by Lu Chengkong is really a fairyland and a hell. 642 boost again. In the virtual circle, the hall of the Zai Palace was full of broken faces at this time, while the three of Aizen stood on the high stairs and looked down at the broken faces below, whether it was the dead Ulki or a cipher. It was all Yami who was resurrected, and Aizen had absolute control over these broken faces that were recreated by the resurrection of Bengyu. I think everyone here can't wait. Everyone has been waiting for this day for a long time. Today will be the day when we launch an attack on the Soul Society. Of course, in order to make everyone stronger, I will definitely use it to fully awaken. The collapse of Jade has made your power even stronger. That's right, the current strength of Soul World is not comparable to the original work. There is no shortage of captains alone, and the strength is far superior to that of the original work. These were just used as pawns, and Aizen, who did not intend to let them accept the complete unblocking of the power of Bengyu, had to change his decision at the beginning. It can be said that the 10 blades of the original work and the 10 blades that have undergone great changes in the characters in front of them are all catalyzed by the Bengyu that has not been completely liberated, and they have not accepted the power after the complete liberation of the Bengyu, but now Aizen has decided to let them accept this power and make them stronger, otherwise these chess pieces will not be able to play their due role. Yes, Aizen-sama, including the Balagang Ruzan gang had to kneel down halfway. After all, they knew how big the gap was between Aizen and Aizen. He didn't want to die, let alone become stronger. Who doesn't want to? Except for Ulki or Asifa, the broken faces present have been completely confused by the power of the surface. It can be said that they no longer control their own power, but are controlled by their own power and become slaves of power. Aizen nodded with satisfaction, and took out the collapsing jade, which was as crystal clear as jade, a little bit like a crystal, and a bit like a diamond, shining like stars in various colors. At this time, he has already been recognized by Bengyu as the master. Of course, he can use the power of Bengyu. It can be said that as long as Aizen has not met someone stronger than him, and Bengyu has not betrayed him, then he will be collapsed every day. The owner of Jade, Bengyu will also let him continue to evolve until his body, mind and soul can't bear the power of Bengyu and are busy. As a purple light was released from the collapsing jade, it turned into a light screen and surrounded all the broken faces in front of it. At the same time, a series of low beast-like panting and wild laughter began to sound in the hall of Zai Palace. Silver, yes, do you need it? Aizen turned to ask Ichimaru Yin and Toxian. I'm not interested in becoming that kind of weird guy for the time being, and I'm quite satisfied with my current strength. Ichimaru Jin squinted, raised his hands and waved to him that he didn't want to. For the sake of Aizen-sama and our plan, I will become stronger and clear all obstacles. Toxian walked out very faithfully and knelt down in front of Aizen, which made Ichimaru Yin feel very depressed. It made him feel that Dongxian was born to like to be a subordinate. He doesn't want a power that can no longer improve his strength other than relying on the power of Bengyu. Why are these guys so idiots? Does Aizen have the kindness to give you power boosts? Not bad. He was quite satisfied with his subordinate, Aizen. The collapsing stomach, the second shot, and the purple light in his hand made the spiritual pressure that Dongxian wanted to expand, and at the same time, the overall strength began to slowly improve, and it was empty for a while. However, the Night Palace erupted in succession with a lot of spiritual pressure that was continuously increasing, which scared many virtuals near the Zai Palace to lie on the ground and tremble. After a long while, the multiple spiritual pressures of the Zai Palace began to slowly converge, and Aizen on the side also said in a timely manner, "Masters, let's go, and annihilate all the gods of death that oppose us in the Soul Realm." With the existence of Liu Changkong, Aizen couldn't kidnap Orihime Inoue, and there would be no Death Captain to come to Zushin to be imprisoned, and it took a lot longer for the same Bengyu to be completely liberated. There is no such thing as the original book. Because of Inoue Orihime's reason, he was released so much earlier, so Aizen is very precise and waiting for him in this world, but the captain and vice captain of the entire Gotei 13th Division, so he will use it. Bengyu once again improved the strength of his subordinates. Black Cavity, Ulquioricifer, who has been resurrected and has been bathed in the power of Bengyu, opened the black cavity for Aizen, and the other 10 blades also opened the black cavity one after another, and Aizen walked into the biggest one. In Haichang, he is also at the forefront, as if it is a sign that the king's Shanyan will not be offended, and no one can walk in front of him. This guy is really stunned by Bengyu, and he is a bit arrogant. Ichimaru Yin secretly said in his heart, and at the same time tightened the Zanpakuto like a short sword around his waist, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, including Aizen in the no one inside knew how powerful he was. Originally, when Ichimaru Jin and Aizen fought against each other in the original book, their strength had already reached the peak before breaking the limits of death and the void, that is, the peak of Captain Death. It can be said that no one except Liu Changkong knows how far he has reached, because he rarely shows up after he went to Zai Palace, so no one knows except Liu Changkong. On the other hand, in this world, the entire Kakuza town has been put into a deep sleep, and the Kakuza town has been transformed, so that it can withstand the battle of all the gods of death at the level of the captain of Gotei 13th Division. The captain and vice captain of the 13th Division of Gotei, headed by Old Man Yamamoto, and some who were relatively powerful but not vice captains, such as Kakiro Madarame and others, are basically all there, and they use shunpo to stand on the roof or lamppost very casually. On the top, only Shanghai, the Old Man Yamamoto, and Hirako Mako stood above the void. "Hey, it's really troublesome, when can I go back to do the experiment? I've already done half of it before." Urahara Kazuki broke the quiet atmosphere with a displeased look and made everyone's eyes focus on him for a while. No matter how thick his skin was, he couldn't bear it, so he could only pretend that I didn't say anything. It's here. All the gods of death present suddenly felt a strong, surging and at the same time very complex spiritual pressure, as if the gods of death and the virtual spiritual pressure were intertwined and did not form a whole, and they could not exert the greatest influence on each other. At the same time, the combat power is not pure enough, and there are too many impurities, but no matter what, it is also a very powerful spiritual pressure for many vice captains and even some of the captains, Shinigami present. 642, 643 Broken Face vs. Death. Laugh. At the same time, the sky cracked 3 huge gaps, and 3 huge black chambers suddenly opened. Aizen led the addition of Kanemaru Yin and Dongxian, and a group of Shirin, of course, some officials of Shirin. All came out. It can be said that all the broken faces of the Zai Palace have been brought. After all, there is no death god captain in the virtual circle. What is the use of leaving broken faces there? Except for leaving the funeral troupe there to maintain order, there is no broken face left. Aizen Sosuke. Old man Yamamoto's low but full and majestic voice sounded in the sky above Kakuza town. Like a thunderbolt, people couldn't help but look at the owner of this voice, Old man Yamamoto. Captain Yamamoto, let's meet again. Has the present world been transformed by you as I thought? But it doesn't matter, the core strength of Seorite should have been gathered here, as long as you are all annihilated. Aizen said lightly, not putting the god of death in front of him at all, completely unaware that Mako Hirako, Hyuki Kuchiki, and Jinichi Maru behind Aizen were looking at him with a completely mocking and ironic look. Obviously he was also intoxicated by the powerful power that Bengyu brought him. It seems that you are a sinner who doesn't know how to repent. In that case, it's useless to talk about it. Let's fight. The old man Yamamoto's eyes gleamed, and he secretly said in his heart, Aizen, do you think that you will be invincible if you get the power of Bengyu? It's so naive, not to mention Hirako Mako and Kuchiki Shanghai. Ichimaru Yin who is standing behind you is not what it used to be. Hehe. Lu Chengkong, this old man really can't compare to you. You actually let yourself his apprentices keeping a low profile along with Aizen. Aizen nodded in agreement. He also felt that it was useless to talk too much. He was waiting for the creation of the King Seal to open the door to the Spirit King realm, but he didn't know that as he opened the door to the Spirit King realm, he might be caught inside before he walked in. The Zero Squad was destroyed. There are all kinds of things, ashes are made, and the blade is like fire. The old man Yamamoto changed his previous style, and even Aizen didn't think that the old man Yamamoto would suddenly shoot instead of letting the deputy captain of the God of Death take the lead, but it was very difficult. Soon he laughed. Burning the city with fire. A circle of tall walls of fire encircled Aizen, Ichimaru Jin and Toxian for a long time. The power was so great that even Aizen wouldn't dare to touch it lightly. But Aizen didn't care. It turned out that the 3 of them were trapped so that they could eliminate those broken faces and 10 blades first, so as to reduce the loss of Soul World. However, those broken faces and 10 blades were originally used by Aizen to consume the stamina of the captain of the Corpse Soul World or to kill the vice-captains and captains of some team members of the Corpse Soul World, even if the old man Yamamoto did not trap him in advance. He won't be so quick. The old man is so sturdy, Jingle said with a sigh, smacking his lips. When will I be able to reach this point? This is the power of fully exerting the strongest Zanpakuto of the flame type. And when will my ice and snow type Zanpakuto reach this point? Said Toshiro Fugaya tightened his waist, the strongest Zanpakuto Harinmaru of the ice and snow type, and Shikai, the old man of Yamamoto, attacked casually, even if it was a simple slash, and the casual burning flame was already stronger than his Benkai's strongest attack on ice. Tianbai Huafu is going to be stronger. Thinking of this, he feels that he still has a long way to go. Yes, it is the dream of countless Shinigami to have the strongest Zanpakuto of one type, but it is very difficult for Shinigami who also mastered this one of the strongest Zanpakuto to fully utilize the power of the strongest Zanpakuto of one type in their hands. It is many times more difficult than other death gods. Let's take Toshiro Fugaya's current strength as an example. If he wasn't holding the strongest Zanpakuto in the ice and snow type, but a random Zanpakuto, with his current strength, the power of that Zanpakuto would have been shattered long ago. At the maximum, how could he not be able to fully display the 100% power of Hiranwan Maru with his current strength as he is now? Since that's the case, then this place is under the control of the old man, and you are not allowed to resist. Balagang Ruzan helped the 10-blade who was stunned by the power to shout to all the broken faces present. Although many broken faces, his tone was very dissatisfied, but no matter what, the 3 of Aizen were now besieged, and he was the 10th blade of the 10 blades. Even Ulquioricifer didn't seem to care, and the others were not the 10 blades. Of course, the broken face did not dare to speak. Damn, where did that guy Nellie L go? Isn't she in the soul realm? Why didn't you see her? I said that I would definitely return the shame you brought me. With his own perseverance and hatred for Nellie L, he has restored his strength. Not only that, his current strength is better than the original, and after being bathed in the power of Bengyu, he can now make 5 to 6 of the original one he beat. Therefore, he is very confident now, but it is a pity that his confidence is stupid and arrogant in the face of Nellie, not to mention Nellie, either Grimjaw or Stark alone is enough. Killed him in a few moments. So if you destroy the 4 pillars, Kakuzako will come back. Charlotte Kurufeng, Abira Marlita, Fendor Kilias, Shinan Po, Gio Wei Greg, Nilg Pardok went and destroyed your 4 pillars. Seeing that no one resisted him, he thought that His Majesty was still there with the Ruzen gang, who did not dare to resist. At the same time, he ordered his subordinates to destroy the 4 pillars. Yes, my lord. The subordinate officer of the Ruzen gang in Belegan nodded respectfully and immediately rushed to the 4 pillars. The extremely belligerent and impatient corner of the eyes immediately rushed over to stop the strongest one. Ace Chuan Yujin also has some good friends of death, such as Hisagi Shuhei, Shoten Teziman, Hira Ikuri, and Asane Renji, but I don't want to see Madaramu corner besieged, plus they also had to defend the 4 pillars of Kakuza town, and it was not a violation of the order, but they also rushed out to block the other broken faces. Let your subordinates go with you. The Belegan Ruzen gang was not angry when they saw that their subordinate officers were stopped, and ordered the other Shirin who had subordinate officials, and the other Shirin didn't care too much. Signal their subordinates to take action. So some immobile gods of death, Ichigo Kurosaki and others had to take action. After all, their home was in Kuza town, and they dared not let these broken faces destroy these 4 pillars. Let's fight quickly, the real battle is still 10 blades and Aizen. These pieces of noodles are just appetizers. Hirako Mako said, but he didn't notice that Hiyori looked at him with contempt, and in his heart he was still scolding Hirako Mako for not working hard and still playing tricks here. If Hirako Mako knew about it, he might shout innocent, no, I don't want to contribute, and if these bad faces really become bullying, such ungracious things are not suitable for a handsome guy like him. 643-644 The real battle begins. Mako, there seems to be a little more people with broken faces, can we just rely on them? Tsuruuki Hiyori said a little worriedly when he saw that most of the Shinigami were at a disadvantage. If they can't beat the broken face of this level, what are they doing as vice captains? They are just looking at the level of the breaking face and the attack method of the breaking face. When they see through it completely, there is no use value. Then it will be time for Asanjing Renji and the others to counterattack. If it was someone else asking, Mako Hirako didn't need to answer, but seeing the slippers that Hiyori was ready to hold at any time, Mako Hirako immediately replied obediently like a kitten. Mako was right, the battle in the original book was the vice captain was almost completely wiped out. But now facing these broken-faced officials is not only a group of vice captains, but also Ichigo Kurosaki and the others, and Madaragi's strength is not comparable to the original work. What's more important is that they don't need to face the terrifying hybrid beast god that Harabel's 3 subordinate officials jointly summoned to the vice captain level death god, so the death god's side has a great chance of winning. The development of the situation seems to be to echo the words of Mako Hirako. It didn't take long for Mako Hirako to say it, except for Kurosaki Ichigo, whose current captain level strength is at a disadvantage in the face of these subordinate officials. You don't need to be a death god, just take it directly. In addition to wiping a knife on the neck, the inferior god of death, Asanjing Ryan, who fell behind, began to use his housekeeping skills one by one. I didn't want to use Bankai in front of so many people, but since the captain himself has used Bankai, there is no need for me to hide it, Bankai. The original Zanpakuto would not release the Zanpakuto, but instead advocated the straightforward slashing Reiatsu attack. Therefore, the Shinigami of the 11th Division basically fought according to the path of Zanpakuto, let alone more. The admirers of Mu Kenpachi are already in the corner, but now that Zaraki Kenpachi has used Bankai in front of so many people, there is no need for him to restrain himself. Bankai, Baboon King Shui Wan. With Madarama taking the lead, Renji Asanjing is also not to be outdone. Those who know Bankai are basically Bankai, and those who don't know Bankai also use the strongest move of Shikai at present, while T-Dutaihu also use the left arm of the devil and the right arm of the giant. Soon came a big comeback, suppressing their opponents and even the broken-faced subordinates who outnumbered the death gods. How long they cast, with a shrill and painful scream resounded in the sky above Kakuza town, these subordinates. Guan basically said goodbye to this world. Look, what this handsome guy said has never been missed. Hiroko Mako raised his head proudly, but unfortunately his head was just raised, and in the days when Hiroko Mako was proud, he ignored the sluggish eyes of all the gods of death and attacked with slippers. Hit his raised head again. It seems that I still need to seriously think about and observe the position of the captain. Old man Yamamoto twitched the corners of his eyes, and the scales, which were a little biased towards Mako Hiroko, began to return to their original point again, not left or right. It's really troublesome. I thought it would take a long time, but I didn't expect it to come to us like this. Jingle Chunchui sighed. To be honest, he was really afraid of trouble. This is very similar to Stark. No wonder they can be such good friends. 10 blades. Shuru Yukitaki looked at the 10 broken faces in front of him, and couldn't help but feel a little dignified. The latter ones were better, but the previous ones who had completely liberated the power of Bengyu were more troublesome. Very strong, at least for many Captain Reaper. HMPH, it's really boring. I wouldn't have come if I knew it earlier. Zanaki Kenpachi glanced at the 10 blades. His tone was full of disappointment that could not be concealed, and his words obviously angered the two most grumpy among the 10 blades. Nutra and Yami immediately looked at Kenpachi Zakagi angrily, and scrambled to rush to Kenpachi's Aragi, thinking that they planned to kill this god of death who looked down on him so much. Boring. Today Zakagi Kenpachi is really in a bad mood. If it was in the past, he would have controlled his strength to the same extent as the two 10 blades in front of him and played with them, but today he obviously didn't have the leisure to do so. I saw a cold light flashing in Zanmu Janba's eyes, and a yellow spiritual pressure burst out from his body. The terrifying spiritual pressure contained an incomparably heavy pressure, and suddenly Nutra and Yami were in the air. The 10 blades in the middle sank all over, and they couldn't resist being overwhelmed directly from the air and fell to the ground with a bang, blasting out 2 big pits. It's so strong, just relying on the spiritual pressure makes Nutra and Yami unable to resist. No, he is not serious at all. If he wants to, he can use the spiritual pressure to directly make the souls of Nutra and Yami collapse. Tsar Apollo Glance, who is considered a scientist. He and Nutra were the most familiar. After all, they had calculated Nelly-Alu together, so the rebuilt Nutra with a few pounds and a few taels of strength, he is still very precise. But this Captain Reaper could unleash a little Reiatsu to make them both unable to resist. It was terrible. He found that he really underestimated the Reaper of the 13th Division of the Guardian Court. He had a feeling that Aizen was not the same. In front of this hedgehog bellhead death opponent. Let's leave this level of shattered face to you, it's too boring. Zaraki Jien walked to the roof of a house, lay down, closed his eyes and fell asleep as if there was no one else around, but there was no one there. Dare to disturb him, whether it is the Death God side or the Zai Palace side. Hey, it looks like Kenpachi is not in a good mood today. Fengchao Lujiro glanced at the two 10 blades below, secretly thinking that you are unlucky, but you are also lucky, because your strength is against Zengi Kenpachi. It's too weak for you to survive. Damn, you bastard, I'm the strongest, how dare you look down on me like that? Nutra struggled to stand up, staring at Kenpachi Zengeki who seemed to have fallen asleep and shouted angrily. It's very angry, but the difference in strength will not change with the size of your voice. Zaragi Kenpachi threw out a sentence that made Nutra almost vomit blood without opening his eyes. Let's get rid of the remaining 10 blades, and then go to Aizen. The old man Yamamoto gave orders directly to the captains of the death gods. As for the other deputy captains and a few officers, he told them to stay aside. Interfere with the captain's battle. Old man, what about mine? Kurosaki Ichigo obviously didn't want to just stand aside and watch, but seeing the posture of the old man Yamamoto didn't seem to have his share. Among the 13 captains of the Gotei 13th Division, Uno Hanaritsu quit. Now, if Zakagi Kenpachi didn't make a move, Kuchiki Shanghai and Heiko Meiko seemed to have the same plan, but together with Tianbei Kusuk, there seemed to be 10 captains there. 645 Captain Death fights 10 blades. If you want to fight so much, I'll give it to you. If it was the previous Broby, he would never say such a thing, but he was pushed down by Liu Chengkong the day before yesterday. Liu Chengkong didn't want Broby to be the same as the original. Without half an arm, although Orihime Inoue and Hana Uno were able to recover, it wasn't good, and the attack of Smashby was a bit monotonous. When her attack speed and movement speed are faster than her skills are basically limited to 7 or 8, even if Bankai becomes a one-hit kill, but the speed is slowed down, and such a big slash the knife is too cumbersome to move, too obtrusive, and the slower speed is even more difficult to function. After the Broken Bee finished speaking, he also walked aside under the surprised eyes of the captains and vice-captains of the Death Gods. Is this still the calm and cold word of the previous Broken Bee, who never blinked an eye when killing people? Why is it so abnormal today, now that Broken Bee has withdrawn, and the old man Yamamoto will not make a move? The balance of 10 to 10 is suddenly broken, and the Death God side has become only 8. Ichigo Kurosaki was stunned. Originally, he thought he had no hope. He was just complaining. He didn't expect that he would have a position after saying a few words, and the old man Yamamoto's appearance was not good. There were 2 of them at once. Quickly fight, the old man Yamamoto repeated again, but this time his tone was much heavier and he was obviously a little impatient. Big fat man, I let you escape before, so this time I won't let you escape again. Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at Yami, who was almost killed by him last time, and he was alive again after a few days. Obviously he chose Yami as his opponent. After all, old man Yamamoto said that he needed a quick solution. He knew him best. Of course, he should be solved quickly. Are you number 1? Then I'm here. Jingle Chunchui also knew that he wanted to be lazy under the stern gaze of the old man Yamamoto, and he was very envious of Zengi Kenpachi and Broby. One of them was his own strength. Fork, lawless, one has a good husband and good sisters, but he is still lonely and has nothing. He wants to fight. Hey, it seems to be impossible. Challenging the old man. Okay, but those who challenge the majesty of the old man have only one end, and that is death. The Balagang Ruzen gang also obviously wanted to try their improved strength again, so they directly swung their big axe and slashed at them. Jingle spring water. Then I'll choose you. Kurosaki Ichigo wanted to choose the resurrected Ulquiorlucifer, but unfortunately he was not a blind arrogant person. After many defeats, he also knew that he could not defeat Ulquiorlucifer at present, not to mention that today's Ulquiorlucifer was at least 5 to 6 times stronger than the one who had died once a few days ago. It's good that Ulquiorlucifer isn't killed in seconds now. Therefore, he chose Nutra, one of the 2 10-edged swords shot down by Zaraki Kenpachi just now, but unfortunately he also miscalculated this time. Nutra's current strength is also 5 to 6 stronger than the original times, and Kurosaki Ichigo's current strength is at most equivalent to the original Nutra, but now facing a Nutra who is at least 5 times stronger than him, he is really dangerous. Challenging this uncle, Nutra immediately aroused the killing intent in his heart when he saw someone challenge him, and the anger provoked by Kenpachi Zaraki immediately sent someone to the door to relieve him. He was also very happy, and didn't care about the opponent's strength, directly picked up the giant sickle and smashed it at Kurosaki Ichigo. A lot of strength. When the sickle and Tiansuo Zanyu touched each other, he immediately understood that he might not read the almanac again today, and his luck was very bad. The Nutra in front of him was at least 5 times stronger than himself, and he dared to neglect immediately. Enter the ether state and fight Nutra. With the Balagang Ruzen gang, Nutra, Jingle Chunchui, Kurosaki Ichigo and others started the battle, and the other death captains also chose one of the 10 blades to fight. And Ulki, of course, what Ola is fighting is the more violent and more inclined to fight with the strong and the 6 chariot boxing. As for the rest, it's fine, but it is worth mentioning that Apollo, the scientist in the 10 blades, did not face the Nimayuri that he was supposed to face in the Gotei 13th Division, but he faced the more powerful Urahara Kazuki. And Urahara Kazuki was obviously very interested in Apollo's ability, but he didn't kill him directly but played with him. Obviously, he planned to clean up Apollo immediately after the other captains finished the battle when he got tired of playing. Corrupt, Skull the Great. The Beiwagang Ruzengang suddenly returned to the sword, so Jingle Chunshui had to fight Shikai directly, but Jingle Chunsui, who had the breath of death for the first time, had to fall into a disadvantage. But fortunately, his Zanpakuto ability is the first time to face an unknown enemy, and he is the arrogant, angry, irritable face of the Balagang Ruzengang, who is not good at calm analysis. The Mori gang almost took the words of Jingle Chunshui many times. For a while, the two were at a deadlock. Although Jingle Chunshui Vivi was at a disadvantage, in fact, for a while, no one could do anything about the other. Ichigo Kurosaki. When Ulquioricifer came to the world, he was looking for you. I saw you in his eyes, but you seem to be stronger than that time. Haha, that's good at least. Be patient. Although Nutra's scythe is large, he is not slow to swing it, and he is good at strength. Don't be deceived by his relatively slender body. In fact, his pure strength is only under the teeth. Remember that pure strength is not the strength of the body. Damn, don't underestimate people, the crescent moon is rushing. The black ribbon shaped slashed out, and it was suddenly released from the huge sickle that Tiansuo Zanyu touched on Nutra, a sudden and violent blow. Let Nutra be accidentally blasted out. It's just that Zigang Gangpi is the strongest among the 10 blades, but he still has some skills, plus his strength is 5 times that of Kurosaki Ichigo, even if he doesn't return to the blade now, and Kurosaki Ichigo has entered the strongest. The state did not suffer too much damage, except for a knife wound that was not too small, not too deep, not too shallow. Okay, it actually hurt me, the boy is not bad, let's see the trick, false flash. Not only was Nutra not angry, but even more happy. If he entered the strongest state, he would not be able to cut himself before returning to the blade. If you hurt yourself, it sounds like a fart. 646 laying in bed late. Nutra opened his mouth wide and spit out a sharper tongue. A yellow ball of light appeared 2 centimeters above the tongue, and shot out at Kurosaki Ichigo, forming a ray-like yellow light. Flash. Crescent moon sky rushes. Kurosaki Ichigo's pupils shrank. It wasn't the first time he fought with Bromian, of course he was very knowledgeable. Generally speaking, one of Bromian's strongest attacking moves was false dodge. The power of the Crescent Moon Sky Chong has been increased to the maximum, and the Crescent Moon Sky Chong cutout this time is no longer a black band. It may be the reason why Kurosaki Ichigo used all his strength. After the black band-shaped slash was formed, it continued to enlarge, and it turned into a crescent-shaped black slash, and Nutra's yellow virtual flash collided violently. Together, the smoke and dust in the sky exploded, forming a mushroom cloud. Pray, holy crying mantis. Nutra understood that if he did not return to the blade, he could only draw a tie with Ichigo Kurosaki in Benkai's blurred state. His rank was only a Chuka's, so he immediately returned to the sword. With Nutra's return to the blade, the originally evenly matched battle was immediately broken. In an instant, the strength was almost the same, but now after Nutra's return to the blade, the strength is now black in Benkai plus virtual state. 5 times that of Sake Ichigo. This is the improvement of Benyu after the complete unblocking. It's a good show now. Hiriko Meiko laughed wickedly, but the old man Yamamoto frowned. Obviously, he also noticed that Ichigo Kurosaki was in trouble. If there was no accident or no one would save him, if so, Kurosaki Ichigo will surely die. After returning to the blade, Nutra's head has an asymmetrical crescent-shaped long horn, and each of the 4 arms holds a large sickle in the shape of a mantis arm, but not many people know that Nutra has more than 4 arms. It can also be increased to 6 according to the needs of the battle. Die, God of Death. Nutra, who had improved in all directions after returning to the blade, roared and rushed towards Kurosaki Ichigo at a speed several times faster than before. Slashed towards Kurosaki Ichigo. In an instant, Ichigo Kurosaki was beaten continuously, and he couldn't make any counterattack except for the passive defense of conditional firing. Not only that, Nutra seemed to have abandoned all defenses. Sometimes Ichigo Kurosaki could occasionally he completely ignored the attacks that hit him. Obviously, after returning to the blade, his strongest steel skin defense has also been improved. It can be said that he ignored the ordinary attacks of Kurosaki Ichigo except for Crescent Moon. God of Death, do you only have so much strength? If so, then you should die. Wang Shu's flash. Nutra attacked Kurosaki in a frenzy for a while, and he was completely wounded and full of blood. It was all over the place, as if he had lost interest. He wanted to find another stronger opponent. Suddenly, he kicked Kurosaki Ichigo in the stomach and knocked him out, knocking over several buildings. Not only that, Nutra didn't intend to let Ichigo Kurosaki go. Obviously, if he fought against him, he would be ready to kill him or be killed by him. A dark yellow phantom flash that was darker than before. Going empty, he directly hit the position where Kurosaki Ichigo fell, and there was a huge explosion, and a huge deep hole had been blown out there. Looks like we're not late. Lu Chengkong's voice suddenly sounded, although it was loud, but Lu Chengkong's voice, not too small, was clearly transmitted to all the gods of death. Here, see how. You're already late, okay. You're not going to stay in bed again, right? Hirako Mako said with a smile, and at the same time seeing Lu Chengkong coming, Zengmu Kenpachi on the side also opened his eyes, and the Broken Bee also relied on it. The dexterous and quick skills came to Lu Chengkong's side. After 2 days of training, although Broken Bee was still tit for tat with him. However, he also accepted his identity as his husband. In the case of someone, Broby is a docile little bee. After all, she did not want to be ravaged by Lu Chengkong in front of Saifeng Yuan Yi after she went back. How could that be? Lu Chengkong hugged his head and denied it directly, but Nelly Lu, who was with him, kept his mouth shut and snickered, because it was really said by Hirako Mako, Lu Chengkong was in the war. On the eve of the Tokiba War, he actually held a bunch of his wives and overslept in the end. It was Nelly L who woke him up. Otherwise, he might not wake up until the battle was over. It's not like you. Why did you only show it with Nelly this time? Kuchiki Shanghai smiled a little more than his usual serious appearance, and said jokingly, and his words were immediately recognized by Hirako Mako. This is not like Lu Chengkong. Lu Chengkong will never be less than 3 beauties to accompany him every time he fights, but this time he only brings 1, which is really big news. Of course it's my baby Nailu who has cultivated feelings. For this one who is most loyal to himself, his soul is immortal, and although he has not been pushed down, except for the last layer of film, he is covered with willow. Lu Chengkong really likes the Nelly L that Chengkong has touched, and Nelly L is one of the few characters he likes the most in the world of death. Nelly L didn't struggle either. She was obviously brave enough to pursue her feelings, but VV's face was a little blushing, but she had a happy expression on her face. She buried her head on Lu Chengkong's chest and was very cute. He breathed a sigh of relief. The charm that radiates out of the invisible is fascinating. Nelly L, you finally came out. Do you still remember me? Nutra, whose mask was taken off by you. You must have never imagined that I will practice again, in order to seek revenge for you. Go die. It's a pity that such a warm scene was quickly broken by a rough voice. After cleaning up Kurosaki Ichigo, although Nutra could not perceive Nelly L who was hiding the Reiatsu, her eyes saw Nelly L, and the hatred in her heart was immediately raised, and she couldn't wait. He rushed towards Nelly Lu, completely hugged her and Lu Chengkong, and the people standing beside him, who were simply incomparable to him, took it as air. Noisy. Nelly L threw out 2 words in an ethereal and pleasant voice, and stuck out a jade hand from Lu Chengkong's arms, stretched out a jade finger without looking at Nutra, tap lightly into the space in front of you. Immediately, there were waves of visible fluctuations in the space, forming a circle of ripples. Nutra, who had just stepped up and rushed over, was suddenly attacked by a huge force, even with a knife. Boom out. 646-647 Niatu Ichigo is still on stage. This is the ability of space. Hirako Meiko, Kuchiki Kyoka, Zakagi Kenpachi, Yamamoto Old Man, Urahara Kazuki are all people who know the goods. Seeing Nellie L as casual, it seems that they ignore the space distance and directly send Noi. The ability of the Terra Bomb to fly out has his pupils shrunk, and he can't help exclaiming loudly. It seems that my Nailu's mastery of space is getting better and better. Of course Lu Chengkong knew that Nailu was the secret of the space-type Zanpakuto. It's just that he didn't expect that Nellialu didn't take action during this period of time. Not only the strength has improved, but also the control of space ability has become more and more powerful, and he can use his own Zanpakuto ability without releasing Zanpakuto. Damn it, it's impossible. How could I, as a male, have a lower status than a female? It's impossible, you can't have such strength. Nutra stood up and roared in disbelief, but there was a tinge of fear in his voice that could not be concealed. Obviously, he couldn't have the same fear of life and death as Grimjow did. This guy is really an idiot. Are strong men divided into men and women? Nellialu obviously doesn't want anyone to disturb her and Lu Chengkong, and she obviously doesn't pay attention to this kind of guy, if he is rushing over. Nellie L wouldn't have bounced him off. Hirako Meiko obviously noticed that the clear eyes that Vivi had originally closed Vivi opened, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. Obviously, Hirako Meiko guessed correctly. If L thought about it, just releasing Reiatsu could crush his soul to such an extent that it couldn't bear it and collapsed. This time Nellie Lu just warned Nutra not to interfere with the warmth between her and Lu Chengkong. I think Nellie Lu didn't want to release her spiritual pressure in Lu Chengkong's arms in such a warm scene. The bottom of the break this a warm scene. Otherwise, if Nutra just rushed over with bad intentions in normal times, he would have died, and he could still be alive and shouting like he is now. It can be said that Nutra is still alive now. Lu Chengkong's blessing. If Lu Chengkong hadn't embraced Nellie L and enjoyed this happiness, if it was warm, Nutra's fate could be imagined. You must know that the current Nellie L is not the original Nellie L. Her kindness will only be reserved for one's own people. Anyone who has bad intentions will cast a thunder, strike on himself or Lu Chengkong and her Nellie. Hee, Nailu seems to be really entertaining. Nutra is dead now. Suddenly, a strange light flashed in Lu Chengkong's eyes, and he looked in the direction where Kurosaki Ichigo fell. Said if it meant something. Well, do you mean him? Nellie L glanced in the direction where Kurosaki Ichigo was, and showed a pure smile, like a lotus flower that was unstained from the mud. Boom. As if to echo the words of Nellie Lu and Lu Chengkong, Kurosaki Ichigo, who had already completely collapsed, suddenly exuded a black Reiatsu, but there is no sentence in the original book, I will protect you. Obviously this time he is life. Under the threat of salt, Ichigo Bai had to hand over his power to him at least to save his life. It's just that Shiro Ichigo didn't expect that after releasing Wang Shu's flash, Nutra turned around and attacked Nellie L, and his power had been handed over to Kurosaki Ichigo, and he wanted to take it back all of a sudden. That's too late. Kurosaki Ichigo is now in a semi-conscious state. Even in his heyday, he can only fall into a frenzy, let alone now, and at this time, he did not become like this to protect anyone, it was purely because Ichigo didn't want to. Kurosaki Ichigo's death affected himself, so Kurosaki Ichigo would definitely go crazy without a trace of reason. Is this the power of the emptiness in his body? After the combination of the two, it actually has the strength of the high-level peak of Vastord, and it is only one step away from reaching the peak of Vastord. Kurosaki Ichigo can be said to be cultivated by Urahara Kazuki. He also knew that there was an empty power in Kurosaki Ichigo. After all, he first became an empty before returning to the god of death, although he eventually became a death, but the power of the void still took root in the depths of his heart. It's a bit embarrassing. As the main body, His strength is only about the broken face Ichigo's in the back of the 10 blades, but the strength of Shu in his body has surpassed him by so much. I am very curious about who was competing with Shu at the beginning. How did he succeed when he was the master? The difference in strength is too big. Hirako Meiko looked at it, and her appearance had changed greatly at this time, becoming a bull's head Ichigo with 2 similar horns and an empty hole in her chest. It seems that Nihato Ichigo is still going to appear, but the difference is that they appear in different ways. The original work was threatened by Ulquiorra and appeared to protect Inoue, so I kept the last obsession in my heart. But now it is because of Nutra's threat that his life is in danger. In order to save his life, Baiyihu gave him his power without any obsession. Killing, fighting. Ichigo, you are still such a rubbish, you are so devoted. In Kurosaki Ichigo's spiritual world, at this time, Shiro Ichigo was facing Kurosaki, who was lying in front of him with his eyes closed and seemed to be in a coma. Ichigo growled angrily. Zanyu, is this the master you chose? If it wasn't for your help when he was fighting for the body, he would never have assimilated me. It's a pity that Hirako Meiko couldn't hear it, otherwise he would definitely show an expression of sudden realization. It turned out that it was Kurosaki Ichigo's Zanpakuto who helped him. Ichigo, this phantom power. Zanyu did not speak, but looked at Ichigo Kurosaki quietly. His eyes were so deep that people couldn't see what he was thinking at all. His existence was to protect Ichigo Kurosaki, and it never changed. No matter how much better Shiro Ichigo was than Ichigo Kurosaki, or how powerful he was unmoved. Che, this kid's luck is really good. Someone was born to give him the spiritual pressure of Captain Death's Peak and let him slowly absorb it. The speed of strength improvement is rapid, and there is such a powerful Zanpakuto who has been silently guarding him. It's just that this kid is too unsatisfactory and rubbish. He can only rely on people to help each time. Without people's help, he will just lie down like a dead dog. Hey, what about the peak spiritual pressure of the captain of the death god? With your strength, it is impossible to mobilize this spiritual pressure and exert a combat power that is symmetrical with this spiritual pressure. Shirai Ichigo was very depressed. Sometimes he really wanted to be an independent individual, but he was helpless. He was born because of Kurosaki Ichigo. If he wanted to become independent, he would only devour Kurosaki Ichigo himself. There is no other way. And he has never done this all the time, just to get Zanyu, like Kurosaki Ichigo, to have Zanyu to protect him and fight with himself. No one knows Zanyu's ability better than him, and Zanyu is indeed the Zanpakuto that suits him best. Therefore, until now, when he has not made a full effort to compete with Kurosaki Ichigo for his body, if he does, he will basically help Kurosaki Ichigo to stop himself to a certain extent. 647-648 The Death of Nutra. Shiro Ichigo knows very well that even if he is strong enough to devour Kurosaki Ichigo with the support of Zanyu in the dark, it is useless to devour Kurosaki Ichigo, because at that time Kurosaki Ichigo will be swallowed by him. You will not give him strength, nor will he fight side by side with him. To know that a Shinigami and Zanpakuto are separated from each other, not only will they not help each other, but will maximize their combat effectiveness, but instead will make each other stumbling and confuse the Zanpakuto owner. It is difficult to say whether the owner of the Zanpakuto can display 5 or 60% of its combat effectiveness. And Zanyu is not the Zanpakuto of Zanaki Kenpachi. Zanpakuto's Zanpakuto needs to devour the spirit of the sword in order to maximize the power of Zanpakuto, but Zanyu is obviously different. So I know the power of Zanpakuto very well and know that Zanyu is the most suitable for me. Shiro Ichigo didn't do it for a while, and now he can use Zanyu's power to fight because Zanyu wants to use his hand to teach Kurosaki Ichigo. However, he who has tried the power of Zanyu wants to get the Zanpakuto, but unfortunately his ideas are different. One is to protect Ichigo Kurosaki, and the other is to devour Ichigo Kurosaki, and he is destined to be the capital of Ichigo in this life. It was impossible for Zanyuki to treat Shiro Ichigo the same way he treated Kurosaki Ichigo. The appearance has changed. Are you transforming again? What is this form? Nutra looked at Kurosaki Ichigo, who had already been beaten by him, and who had more air and less breath even if he didn't die, actually stood by him in front of him. It may be because of his bad luck that he was flung out by Nellie L and just landed not far from Kurosaki Ichigo. Moo! Nihitu Ichigo suddenly let out a loud cry like a mad cow, but it was even crazier and louder than the cow's cry. The sound was so loud that there were invisible ripples in the nearby air. Sound waves. HMPH, you should lie down obediently just now that you saved your life, how dare you be so arrogant. Nutra is on fire now, although she doesn't know what Nihitu Ichigo's cry means, but it was she onto himself, and suddenly turned to Kurosaki Ichigo. I intend to use the same attack method as before to defeat Nihitu Ichigo again. Not only that, but this time the strength is obviously greater, which also indicates that Nutra completely regards Nihitu Ichigo as a punching bag. Who became whose punching bag? Taurus Ichigo's pupilless eyes suddenly stared at Nutra, which made his heart shudder, but more of it was anger. The scythe was swung even faster and a sharp sonic boom sounded. Niutao Aikihu flicked his right hand, ignoring the 4 sharp scythes in front of his face and directly killed the sickle with his palm. The powerful force made Nutra involuntarily lean back, but it was right the foot stepped back, and the body was kept from falling backward by the force of the rebound. Impossible, how did this little devil who was vulnerable just now suddenly become so powerful? Nutra yelled in anger and slashed at Niu's head Ichigo again, obviously defeated by Nellie L again. Moreover, facing Nellie Lu, he was like an ant sitting on a well and watching the sky, which made his heart soar to the sky. Now, seeing this little devil who was beaten to death by him just now is so rampant, he is even more angry. Nihitu Ichigo's right hand moved backwards without looking at it, and Tiansu Ozanyu returned to his hand again and slashed straight forward. There was no sharp and harsh sound of swords colliding, but some were like sharp swords cutting wood. General crisp sound. Broken. Nutra's pupils shrank for a while, and he said with a cold breath. The sickle is very sharp, and it seems to be cut off by someone and cut off with one knife. How can this be new? The one who broke his side was Ichigo Kurosaki, who had just been abused by himself. Nihitu Ichigo let out a low roar, and after cutting off Nutra's sickle, he raised his right foot and kicked Nutra out, and then he caught up with Nutra in a flash. A single skill hit Nutra's head and directly dropped him from midair to the ground, pinching Nutra's head and lifting him up. Immediately, a heavy punch hit Nutra in the stomach, causing him to vomit blood, and the whole person turned into a cannonball that was fired and disappeared, but there were several loud rumblings from the rear. Nutra, who was apparently knocked out, hit many houses. Damn, you little brat, how dare you treat this uncle like this? I want you to die without a corpse. Wang Shu's flash. The dark yellow Wang Shu's flash came from the front, and Nihitu Ichigo was not to be outdone. A flame-like light ball condensed in front of the bull's horns. With a single blow, the flames flashed out, and the 2 flashes had collided. The sub-concentration is far better than that of Nutra's Wang Shu's flashing flames. Not only that, the remaining flaming phantom flashes directly hit Nutra, directly burning half of his body. His Wang Shu's phantom flash was not as good as Ulquioricifer's black phantom flash. The strength is so different. In the case of a huge difference in strength, the black virtual flash of the same level as the flame virtual flash is easily dispersed, let alone the flash of Wang Shu, who is 1 level lower than the flame virtual flash and the black virtual flash. Of course, it cannot offset the residual. The power of the flaming flames. How can this happen? I, Nutra, are the strongest, how can I be defeated by a brat like you? At this time, Nutra had temporarily forgotten the hatred for Nellier and the shame of being defeated by Nellier. Some of it was just anger at Nihitu Ichigo in front of him, but it was a pity that he ignored him. No amount of anger can change the gap in strength. 100 meters apart, Nihitu Ichigo suddenly appeared in front of Nutra, stepping on his body, making him unable to move. Under his frightened, unwilling, unbelieving, angry, and desperate eyes a pair of pointed and long bullheads once again condensed a flaming phantom flash and hit him directly. The soaring flame's spiritual pressure rushed into the sky, and the strong wind destroyed all the nearby buildings. Nutra couldn't even scream, and was directly beaten by the flames. When did Kurosaki's strength become so strong? And that speed is too exaggerated. Such strength can already be compared with yesterday's giant called Grimmjow. Ishida Yulong looked at Nihato Ichigo in surprise. Chadu Taihu beside him, and Asanjing Renji on the other side also widened their eyes, and even the other 10 blades on one side looked over. It turns out that this is the power of the emptiness in his body. It is because his Reiatsu suddenly surpassed mine when I met him for the first time. It turns out that this is the reason. Looking more clearly, I roughly guess the mystery of Kurosaki Ichigo. 648, 649 Grimmjow's request. Death. Lu Chengkong felt that he didn't come for nothing this time. This place is much more shocking than the anime scene on the computer. It's a pity that the opponent is too weak. He tore open the space under the strange and puzzled eyes of Hirako Mako and others, opened the black cavity next to Lu Mansion, and directly used the spiritual pressure to create an ice blue light rope and shot it in. It didn't take long for him to light up. Pulling it lightly, what came back was another figure. It was Grimmjow. Anyway, Grimmjow also agreed to help Ulquiorrax to free him, so it was easy to see that there was no trace of impurities, no trace of external force. The real goods were genuine, and the strengths were similar. Who will win the battle to protect this half-blood, human strength, undead strength, void strength? Hey, Grimmjow, look, Ulquiorrax was attacked, and if you don't come again, it's not that you help Ulquiorrax to free him, but that Ulquiorrax is killed. Lu Chengkong pointed in the direction of Ulquiorlacifa. Nihato Ichigo has no obsession at the moment, and has no thoughts other than the madness to vent this uncontrollable force, killing neuter. After pulling, he will next target Ulquiorlacifa, who is closest to him and one of the most powerful. No wonder Urahara Kazuki cared so much about him at the beginning. It turns out that in addition to the alien spiritual pressure, there is such a void in his body. Haha, good, very good. Compared to that useless Kurosaki Ichigo, I am more satisfied with the imaginary strength in his body. It makes my blood boil even more, and makes me want to fight him even more. I haven't met an opponent that makes my blood boil for a long time. The belligerent Grimmjow certainly didn't want to fight against opponents whose strengths were too far apart. Now, seeing how powerful Kurosaki Ichigo's body is, combined with Kurosaki Ichigo's power and Zanyu's power, there will be being so powerful, he didn't give in too much compared to himself, which made his blood boil. Without even thinking about it, he returned directly to the blade, entered the strongest state and rushed to Ulquior Ichigo before Ulquior Ichigo, kicked Ulquior Ichigo out with a quick kick, and then looked at Ulquio in a complicated way. Compared to Grimmjow's complicated gaze, Lacifa seemed very calm, and he did not have the fear of someone who had died once and then faced death. Instead, he was relieved and happy. Unfortunately, I couldn't see the fight between you and that kid. I thought a fight must be fierce. Ulquior Lacifa said to Grimmjow calmly, and while he was speaking, a green light began to bloom on his body. Aizen was now surrounded by a wall of fire and could not see Ulquior Lacifa's current situation, of course. There is no way to directly control Ulquior Lacifa through Benyu, so now Ulquior Lacifa can still control himself. Farewell. Ulquiorlacifa waved at Grimmjow. He never thought of living, if he understood the meaning of the heart before being catalyzed by the power of Benyu, and Grimmjow if Myo controlled nothingness and made his heart no longer nothingness, he would never die like this. He Ulquiorlacifa, of course, has his own pursuit after he has a heart. But now he is completely controlled by Aizen, he is no longer qualified to pursue, and his future has long been ruined by Benyu. Everything has been. It was like a mirror. It was too late, so he wanted to use everything he had left to help this great void that made him understand the meaning of his heart and make himself no longer empty. Grimmjow. Wong, is there any way to make him recover? Grimmjow turned his head and said to Lu Chengkong, looking at Lu Chengkong with begging eyes. Times asking for help. Even in the face of Lu Chengkong, this was the first time he showed such an appearance, not for himself, but for Ulquiorlacifa, so that a touch of emotion flashed in the eyes of Ulquiorlacifa, who knew Grimmjow very well. At this moment, I only feel that my heart is warm, not cold. No, Lu Chengkong shook his head. After all, he is not a god. Although he is now as powerful as Mao Zhawali, Spirit King, and Wang Shu, he is only an existence with powerful power. A saint who cannot do anything, even a saint is not omnipotent, let alone Lu Chengkong. Grimjiao was suddenly disappointed, and the latter Ulquioricifer did not have much mood swings, and was still as calm as ever, but soon both of them looked at Lu Chengkong with surprise. I couldn't do it before I was bathed in the power of Bengyu, but if I let him go back to his original form and become a phantom of the lowest level even worse than Kyrian, I can do it again after training. Lu Chengkong twitched the corners of his mouth and said with a smile, obviously he was deliberately trying to displease Grimjiao just now. You give all of your power to Grimjiao first, and I will keep your soul, which is split from your own soul, not a complete soul. You are not Stark. Stark's soul splitting is that his ability will not damage his soul, but you are not, then I will let you repair your soul, but don't force the soul to split in the future, otherwise. Although the latter words were not spoken, Ulquioricifer, who suffered from the split of his soul and survived because of it, had a general understanding of what Lu Chengkong meant, and he did not hesitate to turn into a green light and merge into Grimjiao. In his body, the current Ulquioricifer's strength is 5 to 6 times stronger than the strength of 2 days ago. Even if the current Grimjiao swallows it, it will have a great effect. Because Grimjiao has now mastered the symbol of his spiritual power, there is no shortage of realms, and it will not be like other Vastord. Even if it devours the same level of emptiness, it is useless. What Grimjiao lacks is only to break the power of Vastord's bottleneck. Now all he has to do is to accumulate continuously. Therefore, Grimjiao, who has now reached Ulquioricifer, has grown in strength again, but Grimjiao, who is influenced by Lu Chengkong, knows that pure quantity is useless, and Reiatsu is not only useful if it is simply huge. To be able to fully utilize and control 100% of the play, and at the same time pure and no impurities is the most important amount, the more pure the better. Therefore, Grimjiao did not directly absorb the spiritual pressure from Ulquioricifer in his body. Instead, he continued to compress it to remove all impurities. Finally, after countless compressions, cleanings, and washings, what remained only the purest spiritual power without impurities begins to absorb this spiritual power and turn it into a part of one's own spiritual pressure. 649-650 Leopard King vs. Niatu Ichigo. At the same time, just before Ulquiorix's green light entered Grimjiao's body, Lu Chengkong shot out an ice blue light that hit the green light that Ulquiorix had transformed into. At the same time as it merged into Grimjiao's body, a gray object that could only be seen as a humanoid flew out from the green light, which was wrapped in ice blue light. If it wasn't for the ice blue light protecting this object, it might be dissipated by the wind. Obviously, this is the soul of Ulquioricifer, and it is not complete, but split by Aizen. Only after he is completely repaired to form a complete soul can he be turned into the lowest level of emptiness. I'll solve your problem later, I'll send you to Stark first. Lu Chengkong looked at the incomplete soul of Ulquioricifer floating in front of him and said, the latter heard the words, insignificant. He nodded, as if he was thanking Lu Chengkong. However, Lu Chengkong smiled indifferently, opened his black voice and sent it to Stark, and asked Stark to take care of him. He was an old friend anyway, and Stark was of course very happy about it. It's too late to say it, although there are so many things that happened just now, but in fact, it's just not enough for 2 seconds to pass, and the Taurus Ichigo who was suddenly kicked out has only instinct left at this time. Zhe Limyo attacked himself suddenly, and he could feel the threat from him, plus Ulquioricifer had disappeared. He immediately shifted his target and attacked Grimjiao. One of them was completely Avatar and combined the power of Reaper and Zanpakuto. The other was an authentic Vastord who broke through between life and death step by step. Comparable to 9,999 pure gold, the collision between the two immediately unfolded in the air of Kakuza town. At this time, Ichigo Taurus only had instinct left, but it was precisely because of this that he complimented Kurosaki Ichigo's serious lack of combat experience and his poor combat skills. But driven by the fighting instinct, these 3 simple attack methods were maximized. Moreover, Zanyu is the most suitable way to attack. Otherwise, He will not only have one move, but also the only one, the Crescent Moon, so relying on instinct to fight will bring the power of Zanyu into full play. Maximum. Wang Shu's Flash. Grimjow was a big move as soon as he came up, and the blue Wang Shu's flash shot directly through the air and shot at Niatu Yihu. Niatu Ichigo roared, and shot a pair of super long horns at Grimjow, not to be outdone, and fired a flaming phantom. Since both sides were evenly matched, their power was one lower than that of the Black Phantom and the Flaming Phantom. The high-level Wang Shu's flash was broken up after a short stalemate, but the flame flash was not much better. At least after Wang Shu's flash was broken, there was not much energy left to directly be with Wang Shu's flash. Explode. Is it the same level as Ulquiorra's Black Phantom flash? The flame-like Flame Phantom flash has good power. It should be a unique ability that you realized after you arrived at Vastord. In this case, I can't hide my clumsiness. Now, let me show you the skills I learned after Vastord. Grimjow clenched his hands suddenly, and let out a roar from the sky, as if the Leopard King was roaring in the sky, and then there was a sound from behind Grimjow that sounded like a burst of clothes. A pair of slender and huge wings grew out of Grimjow's back. Ah, the wings are quite unique, but they are very suitable for Grimjow, the Leopard King. It should be regarded as the Leopard King's wings. Leopard wings. Others are white tigers with wings that add more wings to a tiger. This Grimjow is now like a leopard with wings. Lu Chengkong looked at Grimjow's appearance at this time, and said a little speechlessly. Not to mention, the growth of a pair of leopard wings is not for decoration, because at the moment when the pair of leopard wings appeared, his opponent, Niatu Ichigo, obviously tightened his body, as if he was guarding against Jay. Grimjow seems to be even more terrifying after telling everyone that he has grown a pair of leopard wings. It's been a long time. I'm not used to using this state for the first time. My Leopard King form is different from Ulquiorra's second stage blade, but you can experience the difference yourself. After Grimjow finished speaking, he didn't see any movement in his body, not even the leopard wings behind him moved. His figure had disappeared, and after the leopard wings grew, he was really like a leopard. It's faster. If Ishida Yuryu's evaluation of Taurus Ichigo's speed is astonishing, then the speed evaluation of Grimjow, who is now in the second form of the Leopard King, is terrifying. Niatu Ichigo instinctively sensed the danger coming from behind, conditioned reflex to pick up Tiansuo Zanyu and slash back. The strong force seemed to split the air, and a harsh sonic boom sounded immediately, but unfortunately there was no one behind him. Where are you looking? Grimjow's voice came from the left of Ichigo Minotaur. It was too late when he was about to attack again. Grimjow had already struck the leopard at close range. The king's claw tore apart Niatu Ichigo's body, and 10 huge scars appeared. The blood seemed to be pouring out continuously without money. Even if Niatu Ichigo's super speed was comparable to Ulquiorra Sifa, is too late to regenerate. Moo. Niatu Ichigo is not bullied either. In terms of speed, he is behind Grimjow, who entered the second state of the Leopard King, but after all, his strength is still at the same level, and he can still react at such a close distance. Coming here, he was not to be outdone when he was attacked. The bullhorn released a flicker of flames, and at the same time, he waved the skylock with his right hand to cut the moon, and a huge black crescent moon flew out. HMPH, are you still using this trick? Don't think that only you can have a virtual flash that surpasses Wang Shu's flash power. I have it too, the Leopard King virtual flash. Grimjow's face remained unchanged. He sneered, his right hand was wide open, and a dark blue ball of light with a jagged shape, which was spinning at a high speed like a whirlwind, shot out of nowhere. The virtual flash was launched. Boom. 2 consecutive huge explosions sounded like thunder, and the tumbling waves like the ocean waves during a tsunami surged away in all directions, and the sputtered spiritual pressure seemed to form a hurricane, which would smash nearby people. Nothing to build, all the boulders destroyed, blown away, blown away. 651 Leopard King wins. Grimjow's Leopard King Zushin is really Niu Shisen. He actually managed to withstand the flames and the crescent sky chong with one enemy and 2. But don't forget, Grimjow's Leopard King Void Flash itself is the same as Black Void Flash, and Flame Void Flash is a first level, and if the strength of the two sides is similar, the power is almost the same. But the current Leopard King Zushin is still able to withstand the two with a powerful crescent moon while facing the flames by his own strength. He is already very good. He really deserves it. It is to give up the super speed regeneration and only the slow regeneration is left in exchange for a stronger attack power. On the other hand, Shiro Ichigo, a creature that is very close to the void but still a little bit close to the void, retains the super speed regeneration, but in terms of pure attack power and destructive power, it is not as good as Grimjow who gave up the super speed regeneration. Obviously, every virtual with super speed regeneration, you must have a high degree of autonomy to comprehend the possession. Not all virtuals have different views on super speed regeneration, some reserve, some do not. There is one more, eat it for me. 6 or 7 to dazzling jagged lights like blue lightning suddenly burst out from the thick smoke. A Leopard King Phantom flashed directly when there was no time or opportunity to unleash his trick. The resisting Niato Ichigo slammed the Niato Ichigo into the ground with a bang, blowing up a column composed entirely of sand, soil, buildings, and smoke. You should be finished now. Grimjow gasped slightly. Obviously, even he was physically exhausted in such a high-intensity battle just now. It can be said that this time he almost ran out of cards. Not only the return blade, but also the three abilities that Achukas and Vastord realized when they were the Leopard King's claws, the Leopard King Illusory Flash, and the second Leopard King form. The power of death and virtual are out. It's over. Others may not be clear, but with Lu Chengkong's strength, how could they still not be able to see clearly? Niato Ichigo first ate a powerful claws of the Leopard King, and then was completely hit by the Leopard King Zushin. And it is the super attack power that Grimjow gave up for the super speed regeneration. Under the same level, it is too late for Taurus Ichigo to regenerate. It is already very good that there is no direct death. This battle is the Leopard King. Grimjow defeated Ichigo Kurosaki. Scoff. Suddenly, just as many gods of death breathed a sigh of relief, a long black cavity suddenly cracked open in the sky, and an object similar to a giant void poked its head out of the black cavity, along with those who had come to this world before. Extinguishing Prince Wandawise. Suddenly, a breath of air was blown out, and the wall of fire created by the old man Yamamoto's powerful and most terrifying Ryurin Ruahuo was actually extinguished. The name of the Prince of Extinguishing after returning to the blade has not been changed. Called the Fire Nemesis. Of course, after seeing Ujawali's various Zanpakuto abilities, Lu Chengkong knew that so-called restraint actually had both positive and negative sides. As long as it reached a certain level, even restraint would become anti-restraint. For example, if the flame of old man Yamamoto is more intense and high temperature, it will reach the limit that the prince can't bear, and if it exceeds the limit of the flame that can be extinguished by the prince, then the prince will be burst. It's amazing, the old man's Ruo Ren Ruahuo was actually put out. Jingle Chunchui suddenly used the ability of the Shadow Ghost to avoid the Balagang Ruzan gang, turned his head and looked at the extinguished wall of fire and couldn't help exclaiming loudly. Reconstructing the broken face, giving up all the abilities that can be improved, and creating the broken face specially to resist or restrain a certain ability. Nellie L looked at Wang Dawei. At this time, it was Nellie L who had reached the Scredo level. All the mysteries of the virtual were no secret to her, so she just glanced at it and felt Wang Weida. The breath on his body has already been judged. Aizen glanced at Nellie L in surprise. He didn't expect that what he had prepared for old man Yamamoto would be seen through by this beautiful woman at a glance, and what made him a little uneasy was that Nellie L should feel empty to him. However, there is no false feature on Nellie Alu. It is exactly the same as the god of death, which makes him feel uncomfortable and uncontrollable, but at this time, it is already difficult to ride a tiger, even if there are any variables Ran could only go on, and when he thought of the collapsed jade on his chest, the unease in his heart was abandoned by him again. Tosin, have you forgotten the justice and agreement between us? Komamura Zojun saw that Toxian was about to question immediately. Dong Xian wanted his face to remain unchanged, and slowly opened his mouth to tell the secrets that belonged to him, the sins committed by the 46th room, and now Kimura Zojun was speechless. After all, the 46th room's bad behavior it has long been made public, and no matter how righteous he is, he cannot find any reason or point of view to refute. Since that's the case, let me have this old man as your opponent. Komamura Zojun didn't like the original book and couldn't play as hard as his former friend. Obviously, not only Aizen made many arrangements that the original book didn't have, but even the old man Yamamoto. In this way, the ideological work on the Kimura left front has been done a long time ago, so the Kimura left front is no longer indecisive. You are not my opponent. Dongxian wanted to look at the left formation of Komamura, and he felt uncomfortable, but everyone had the persistence in his heart, the persistence that would not change because of anything, so he also waved out of his Zanpakudo. Komamura Zojun directly Shikai. The huge Zanpakudo contains powerful power and directly slashes at Tosen Kao, but it is a pity that in the face of the amazing Zanpakudo Tosen Kao, he directly used the power that Aizen gave him. After blurring, he caught it with one hand, and even lifted it slightly to bounce Komamura Zojun's knife back. Bankai Black Rope God's Condemnation King Ming. Knowing that he was not Dongxian's opponent, he didn't hesitate or back down. Instead of retreating, he advanced and released Bankai. The huge black armored warrior immediately took shape, and Komamura left the formation after that. Bankai mustered the greatest strength and swung the black rope to punish Ming Wang's big sword directly to Toxian Yao. It's a pity that the destructive power has been increased, but the speed is really not enough. Toxian has to dodge it with ease, and even keeps attacking the black rope to punish the Ming King, causing the Kimura Zojun to be completely injured. In the end, Tosen wanted to return to the sword in anger because of the hatred in his heart and the words of Kimura Zojun. He completely pressed and beat the Kimura Zojun with overwhelming strength and speed, and found an opportunity to kill each other in 9 rounds. Severely wounded Kimura left formation. Just when Komamura Zojun was about to give up, Usagi Shubbing succeeded in a sneak attack and hit Toxian Yao seriously. It was still the same as the original book. Toxian was going to regret it, and he became enlightened. At the same time, he was talking with Lan. Ran activated the blood splattering of the hands and feet that moved in his body and died, causing Komamura Sajin to roar in disbelief. 652 Jumping Clown. Only the 2 of you are left. Lu Chengkong looked at Aizen with great interest. He really wanted to see what Aizen could do now. Anyway, Aizen was bound to die today, after playing for so long. Lu Chengkong was also tired of playing, so if Aizen didn't die, it really didn't matter. Oh, I'm the only one left. Do you mean that I'm at an absolute disadvantage? Hee, I'm already a god, no matter how many opponents I have, it's useless. Aizen lost the introvertedness that he had hidden in the past. Instead, Haki said it fully, and he didn't take Lu Chengkong and others in front of him at all. He didn't know whether to call him an idiot or arrogant. Among you, Lu Chengkong and that woman named Nelly Lu didn't fall in love with Kyoka Shuiyu, but do you think you can still escape the hypnosis of Kyoka Shuiyu in the waiting battle? Aizen sneered as she watched Lu Chengkong, who has always been regarded as a great enemy by himself. It seems that you are very confident in your own mirror. Well, I'll stand here to hypnotize you, so that you don't be so arrogant. Lu Chengkong sneered, as if traveling through space. He came directly to Lan Ran's in front of him. The speed was so fast that Lan Ran's pupils contracted. What? You're surprised by my speed? Don't worry, I've already controlled the speed to the slowest level. Today, I'm in a good mood, so I'll give you this opportunity. If you miss it, you won't have to. Lu Chengkong looked at Lan mockingly. Ran, as if looking at a frog sitting in the sky, but Lan Ran's face sank, and without saying a word, he directly liberated his Zanpakudo, Jinghua Suiyu. You lost. If you attacked me at that speed just now, you still have a chance to win, but now. Aizen smiled triumphantly like a winner, but unfortunately his laughter was quickly stuck in his throat. What he couldn't believe was that Lu Chengkong stretched out his right hand and pinched his neck with ease. From the god of death who was hypnotized by Jinghua Shuiyu, it seemed that Lu Chengkong was pinching air, but as a user of Jinghua Shuiyu, was he still hypnotized? However, Nellie Lu clearly saw that Lu Chengkong was holding Aizen's neck so that he could not speak. Is this the ability you are proud of? It doesn't seem to be very good. Lu Chengkong's eyes have quietly turned into scarlet with a continuous flow of golden light, obviously for a long time. The unused magic eye was displayed by Lu Chengkong once again. Your eyes. Lu Chengkong threw Lan Ran out. Lan Ran gasped for a while, and pointed at Lu Chengkong's eyes with trembling fingers. Do you think that the magic eye is more unique, and it's the only way to kill you? Well, prepare yourself. I won't use the magic eye this time. Well, in order to make you give up, I will also close my eyes. Lu Chengkong restored his eyes to pitch black as ink, and then closed his eyes under Aizen's wide-eyed gaze. Are you ready? Aizen, I'm here. Lu Chengkong's figure flashed, and Aizen, who had already activated Jinghua Shuiyu, thought that nothing would happen this time, but was horrified to find that he was once like a chicken by Lu Zhongkong pinched his neck and lifted the whole person up. Do you know, I have no less than 10 ways to get rid of your Kyoka Suigetsu. Your Zanpakuto ability that you think is very powerful and your so-called godlike strength are nothing more than that in my opinion. Lu Chengkong shook his head in disappointment, and with a slight wave of his right hand, Aizen only felt as if he had been hit by a planet and turned into a cannonball and flew out, knocking over hundreds of buildings and flying for thousands of meters. Far away, a deep gap was drawn on the ground before it stopped. I'm sorry, I've tried my best to control my power to the point where I won't crush you to death all at once. After Lu Chengkong finished speaking, he ignored Aizen and returned to the place where he was standing just now, completely ignoring a kind of death god's collapse, his dull gaze. Impossible, you can't destroy Jinghua Shui. Lan Ran flew back with scars all over his body and spitting blood. Not only that, he was bleeding from 7 holes now. Obviously, Lu Chengkong used his powerful mental power to directly destroy it. Aizen felt the backlash from the energy of Jinghua Shuiyu covering his facial features. The more perfect it looks, the more unbreakable the Zanpakuto is, the easier it is to crack, and once it is cracked, the Zanpakuto is a piece of rotten iron, so I am very satisfied with my Snowdrink Crazy Sword. It's very simple, as long as an idiot can see the way to fight. That is to have enough strength. Let's be honest, Aizen, I've been letting you live until now, but I just don't want you to bring it to me the entertainment is over so soon. You are really just a clown jumping on the beam in my eyes. Lu Chengkong took out a stool from a storage bag similar to a storage ring that Aizen had made for himself, and said to Aizen disdainfully. Don't underestimate people. At this time, Aizen didn't seem to have the winning ticket in the original book at all. Instead, he seemed to be a bit like a lunatic who couldn't bear the blow. He came to Lu Chengkong in a blink of an eye and slashed at Lu Chengkong with a knife. However, Lu Chengkong looked at him with disdain from beginning to end, not even bothering to move. Flutter tilde. Just as Aizen's Zanpakuto was about to slash Lu Chengkong's head, there was still about 1 centimeter away from Lu Chengkong's head. Many gods of death were worried. When Aizen was proud, the jade hand seemed to break through the shackles of space and appeared directly in Lu Chengkong's head. In front of his head, a jade finger was stretched out directly against the blade of Aizen's Zanpakuto, so that this Zanpakuto, which was only 1 centimeter away from Lu Chengkong's head, could not even make an inch. Hiss. Reaper and the people who didn't understand Nellie L's strength just gasped, and Ishida Ryujin and Kurosaki Ishin, who were hiding while watching the play, were also stunned. They didn't think of this seemingly human animal. Harmless, one can't help but feel good about Nellie Lu, who is so powerful that she can withstand Aizen's Zanpakuto attack with just 1 finger. Are you surprised? Don't you know that the virtual steel skin is very powerful? Lu Chengkong's expression remained unchanged, and he didn't look at Jinghua Shuiyu in front of him. He looked at the sluggish Aizen with a bit of amusement. Boom. It's just that Lu Chengkong doesn't care. It doesn't mean that Nellie Lu, his guardian female knight, doesn't care. He dares to take action against Lu Chengkong. A cold light flashed in Nellie L's eyes, and with a flick of her jade finger, the message came from Jinghua Shuiyu. A huge force made him unable to hold the sword. Zanpakuto flew straight out, and at the same time, Nelialu flicked Aizen again from the air. The air suddenly exploded, and a harsh sonic boom entered the ears of everyone. At the same time, a groan of bullets hitting the body followed. Aizen screamed, and the whole person was knocked out. A that can clearly see into the distance has appeared on his chest, and it is obvious that a finger from Nelialu has pierced the heart through the air. 653 Ju Nanbai appears. Nowadays, women really can't be offended. They are too sturdy. They can beat Aizen with one finger. Break through the heart and die. Urahara Kazuki saw that Aizen's heart was pierced and a hole was punched. He should be dead now, but thinking about the collapsed jade he made, he was a little unsure. Now, that Benyu seems to have gone far beyond what he can currently understand. Haha, I'm really grateful to you, for letting my last flaws disappear. Benyu was finally completely tamed by me, and my host's protective instinct has finally begun to evolve me. After being pierced through the heart, Aizen not only did not die, but after a while, he reappeared with a wild, satisfied, happy smile, but at this time his appearance had changed. Obviously, Nelialu and Lu Chengkong did not directly burst out the spiritual pressure above Aizen. They used the most simple and unpretentious physical power that Benyu couldn't feel. Like an ordinary person, Benyu couldn't feel Lu at all. The power of Sky and Nelialu. Similar to the original Kurosaki Ichigo using Wuyu, without Reiatsu, Aizen can't feel it, and Benyu can't feel it either. Even if Aizen is suppressed and injured, it doesn't recover its power, but instead uses itself as the crescent moon to release it. At the time of the strongest blow, Aizen was directly hit hard, and at the same time, Coleman felt that Ichigo Kurosaki grabbed Aizen at that moment, and at the same time, because of the weakening of Aizen's power, he began to withdraw his power. The only difference is that Lu Chengkong and Nelialu are actively hiding the spiritual pressure. Of course, with Aizen's strength, they can't feel the spiritual pressure of Lu Chengkong and Nelialu after actively hiding, and of course Benyu can't feel it either. So it can be said that Benyu's perception was concealed, so after Benyu felt the injury of his current host, he felt the thoughts in his heart, and began to release his own power to make him stronger. Follow the direction in Aizen's heart. Help him evolve. At this time, Aizen's head was covered with a mask that could only see his eyes, and he was wearing a white tights. The hem of the clothes became more forked. This is the first stage after the collapse of Jade. It can be said that everything he has established on top of Benyu, the dominance is also in the hands of Benyu. If Benyu takes back his power, in addition to getting a so-called immortal body that makes the waste in room 46 undead, his strength will return to the peak before breaking the limit of void and death. It is precisely because of this that Lu Chengkong was so disgusted with Benyu at the beginning. This kind of power that is not under his own control can be said to be not his own. It is doomed to have nothing in life. Shu flash. Lu Chengkong didn't make a move, and Nelialu didn't make another move. Just when you thought that no one had made a move, Hirako Mako planned to solve Aizen by himself. You have a very powerful power, but you are destined to have nothing in your life. Virtual flash. Lu Chengkong didn't make a move, and Nelialu didn't make another move. Just when he thought that no one would shoot Hirako Mako and planned to solve Aizen by himself, a light green flash suddenly shot from another direction, directly cover the blue dye in the virtual flash and explode. White. When Fengzi Mako turned his head, he found that Ju Nanbai in an alien costume had arrived at some point. What surprised him was that when he saw Ju Nanbai a few days ago, he clearly saw that Ju Nanbai was still on his body. There are many virtual features. For example, although the mask is broken, there are still some points on the head, and the virtual holes are still there. But now it seems that the mask is still there, but it has shrunk to only a little bit, and Shudong has disappeared. It can be said that it is infinitely close to the God of Death. The God of Death has almost reached the limit that can be achieved at the Vastord level. Compared with Grimjow, Ju Nanbai's death transformation is obviously more thorough. Are you, Ju Nanbai? Your spiritual pressure. How could it be? You actually changed from a god of death to a ghost. Of course Aizen will be fine. After all, when his first state appeared, he had already begun to break step by step. Limit. At this time, it seemed that the peak strength of Wastrad was one level higher than that of Grimjow. Of course, it was impossible for Ju Nanbai to kill Aizen with a single flick. Is it finally here? Bye, if you are a little later, Aizen will be killed, and you won't have the chance to take revenge yourself. Lu Chengkong said happily, with a sigh of relief. Lu Chengkong, who understood Ju Nanbai's thoughts, converted his Wangshu, spiritual king level spiritual pressure into Ju Nanbai's body through double cultivation that night. Of course, Ju Nanbai couldn't absorb it all at once. It was so pure and so much higher than her spiritual power at that time, but Ju Nanbai didn't have much time at that time. Therefore, Lu Chengkong asked Ju Nanbai to break the world again. There are still 3 days, that is, at least 6,000 days, so that it will be difficult to absorb all the spiritual power that Lu Chengkong gave her. It can also be used in actual combat. It fully utilizes the power of Yishin Reiki to the extreme, and it will not be like Kurosaki Ichigo, who has the peak of the leader's Reiki, but he can't mobilize it. He also uses the power of Bai Ichigo to fuse together and fall into madness. Only at the time can only display the high-level strength of Vastord. At the same time, Lu Chengkong knew that there was no better way to make Ju Nanbai absorb the spiritual power he gave her more quickly and apply it to the display to exert its due power except fighting, so she let Siphon Yuan Yi and Inoue Orihime accompany Jinnenbai to break the world. In addition to having a care, it is to let Siphon Yuan Yi and Ju Nanbai fight, and it is a ruthless battle. At the same time, it is also good to teach Ju Nanbai. After all, Siphon Yuan Yi's education level is still a master level. Every time you don't beat Ju Nanbai to the point of death, Sifenjin Yaiki never stops, and there is Orihime Inoue on the other side. It's just trivial to heal the injury, so in 6,000 days, the chance for Ju Nanbai is he fought frantically with Siphon Yuan Yi, in order to take revenge with his own hands. Even Siphon Yuan Yi, who was a teacher who accompanied Ju Nanbai, sighed that Ju Nanbai's will was so tenacious, and at the same time, she completely accepted in her heart that it was a purposeful approach to Lu at the beginning. Ju Nanbai in the sky, and the relationship between the two women also soared. Ju Nanbai also confessed to Siphon Yuan Yi many times about his true thoughts about Lu Chengkong in his heart and told Siphon Yuan Yi, and it was precisely because of this that Siphon Yuan Yi realized that Ju Nanbai was not for anything. The purpose is not bad intentions, and he has a great affection for Lu Chengkong and is grateful. Especially when she heard what was in his heart when he took Ai's Naneo to dedicate himself, Sifenjin Yaiki laughed until his stomach almost hurt, and at the same time accepted Jinnenbai. After all, she also knew that sooner or later they couldn't escape Lu Chengkong's palm. Since it's not bad intentions, and the performance of the other party is really admired by Siphon Yuan Yi, and she is Lu Chengkong's wife no matter what, and will be forever sisters in the future, since the character is no problem, it's not dedicated to a specific purpose. In addition, Siphon Yuan Yi, a person who has come here, of course knows that with the feeling of Ju Nanbai towards Lu Chengkong, the relationship will be cultivated sooner or later, and it is precisely because of this that the relationship between Siphon Yuan Yi and Ju Nanbai has improved so much. Fast? Of course not fast. After all, I have stayed in it for 6,000 days, although it has only been 3 days outside. 653, 654 Kick Fly Blue Die. Although Ju Nanbai, who finally arrived at the last moment, has not broken the limits of death and void, and has not completely absorbed all the spiritual power that Lu Chengkong gave her. After all, the spiritual power of Lu Chengkong's level is not much, but the quality is high. It is too exaggerated for Ju Nanbai. Of course, it is not so easy to completely absorb it. But even so, Ju Nanbai's strength has reached the peak of Vastod. This is not a real strength that can be improved in battle during life and death. It is not simply absorbing the spiritual pressure, but genuinely using his spiritual pressure. To 100% is not comparable to Kurosaki Ichigo. If it is normal, you can also use the spirit control gloves to break the limit, but time does not allow, and Saifeng Yuanyei may want Zhu Nanbai to use pressure when facing Aizen to make Zhu Nanbai like this in the battle of life and death. The potential exploded, and at the same time, Lu Chengkong's spiritual power was used as a stamina to directly break the limit of death and emptiness. Therefore, it is not necessary to cultivate on your own after breaking it like using the spirit control gloves, but after breaking through directly, you can get the strength of the first level Scredo after breaking through. After all, in the 6,000 days, how ruthless he is, Zhu Nanbai is also facing himself, not the real enemy of life and death at the front and rear of the car. This opportunity can only be given to Aizen, who wants to take revenge on the enemy. Lu Chengkong obviously also saw the idea of Saifeng Yuanyei. Not only was he not dissatisfied with this, but he was very happy, and he thought so too. After all, he is very committed to improving the strength of his wives so that they can be guaranteed. How can the chicks grow without the wind and rain? And this also shows that Saifeng Yuanyei is sincerely teaching Zhu Nanbai, not pulling the seedlings to help them grow. Of course Lu Chengkong would only be happy and angry. It's not too soon or too late. In your words, the heroine is usually the last to appear, and who would dare to snatch it from me? Zhu Nanbai didn't know whether it was intentional or unintentional. Those innocent watery eyes lingered on Hirako Mako's body, and a cold sweat broke out from behind Hirako Mako, but on the surface he still pretended that nothing had happened and had nothing to do with me. Fortunately, Zhu Nanbai's eyes left in a while, otherwise, Hirako Mako could not guarantee that he would not reveal his flaws. You must know that he planned to kill Aizen himself just now, but Zhu Nanbai didn't expect to notice it. Now he has an idea that Zhu Nanbai should be here for a while, and he deliberately didn't show up to see who wants to fight her and Aizen. Fortunately, he shot a little late, otherwise, he thought of offending Zhu Nanbai. In the end, a pair of innocent eyes stared at you as if thinking about what sin you had committed, and the simple and black words on the mouth at the same time made people feel ashamed. It should be your masterpiece that she has become like this. Lan Ran suddenly turned her head and looked at Lu Chengkong. In his opinion, the person with such ability should be Lu Chengkong, who has always been regarded by him as his enemy in life. Let's put it that way. Lu Chengkong didn't deny it either. He nodded his head to admit it, and then said, but instead of thinking about these things, you might as well think about how to fight Bai. You idiot probably doesn't know yet. Well, Bai's talent in the God of Death may not be so outstanding. She was also a low-ranking existence in the genius class back then, but she is really unmatched in terms of virtual talent. Of course, Bai is very powerful, Xiao Riri, and the big idiot Kenshi, Feng Chao Luzhiro, who plays the art of idiots. I'm here to avenge you. Zhu Nanbai suddenly pursed his lips and smiled. This smile was completely different from the previous one, which made the three of Hiyori twitch in their hearts. After all, they are all very good friends. They have been orphans since childhood, and they are all neighbors. They also know a thing or two about Zhu Nanbai's life in Duanji these years. Especially in Hiyori, she is the best. Why did Nanbai fight so hard to become stronger? Vengeance. Although I don't know why you turned from a god of death to a phantom, do you think you can defeat me who has collapsed with your strength? You are so innocent. There was an unnamed anger in Aizen's heart. The scene that he thought he had completely mastered once lost control. It seemed that he had always been self-righteous, which made Aizen's self-esteem suffer a huge blow. And now hearing a little girl who used to be just an ant in his eyes said that she wanted to seek revenge for herself, as if she could defeat herself, which made the anger in his heart burn vigorously. What happened just now? It hurts. Kurosaki Ichigo, who had woken up after being treated by Urahara Kazuki, obviously didn't know what he did just now, but it didn't matter anymore, and the nearby death gods looked at him for a long time. Nanbai and Aizen, for the time being, no one paid attention to Kurosaki Ichigo and no one would answer him. So he could only follow the eyes of others to look at the sky, and found that Aizen was confronting a girl in an alien costume, which made him widen his eyes. It is clear how strong Aizen is, why it seems that there are many people who have the strength of Aizen now, but not many people have more strength than Aizen. I didn't think so. Why are you so anxious? Zhu Nanbai looked at Aizen with innocent eyes, making Aizen feel like he was hitting the air hard, very depressed. Flying white kick. Ju Nanbai's eyes suddenly turned cold, and a huge spiritual pressure was released from his body, causing a strong wind to blow away in all directions in the surrounding space, directly blowing the nearby sand, buildings, and buildings into pieces. And at the same time made a loud turn faster than Shinobu, the god of death, and appeared directly in front of Aizen. There was no sign at all, and without even saying a word to turn on the light, Aizen, who was still depressed, was directly hit by Ju Nanbai's handsome face and was kicked to the ground like a sharp arrow. Smoke like waves. Ahem, such a fast speed, such a powerful strength. Lan Ran stood up and glanced in surprise. He had already entered the first stage of Beng Yuha, and his strength was obviously better than Ju Nanbai, but I think I still don't have the speed and strength of Ju Nanbai. In fact, the Shinigami of the same level has a certain gap in speed and strength compared to the virtual. They are all made up by the abilities of the Ghost Swordsman, the Zanpakuto, etc., and only after breaking the limit, the Shinigami mastered it. After the virtual ability, the gap between speed and strength will start to slowly make up. However, after breaking the limit, the same virtual will also begin to grasp the power of the God of Death, so both parties are equal. 654, 655 Jin and White vs Blue Dye. But so what? Aizen quickly resumed the calm smile that had been at the beginning, but no one saw the smile on the rapt face, but soon everyone saw it. Because of the dazzling purple light emanating from Lan Ran's body, the mask cracked to reveal his face, his eyes turned into white pupils on a black background, his hair grew past his waist, and the hem of his clothes turned into a bifurcated appearance. The wound also healed quickly and automatically. In this way, my overall strength is higher than yours in terms of speed, strength, swordsmanship, ghosts, and white fights. Obviously affected by external pressure, Aizen's desire for strength and desire to become stronger was destroyed. I felt that he began to evolve again, and directly entered the second stage of collapsing jade. Feibai kick. Ju Nanbai, who had known Bengyu's ability a long time ago, was not surprised by this. He tried to use it again to break through the air and kicked Aizen again. Do you think such a boring attack is still useful? Aizen stepped on Shunpo, a sideways easily dodged, while still having time to say disdainfully. Super flying white kick. Just don't forget that Ju Nanbai has 2 legs, so he doesn't need to use force in midair, as if he is walking on the ground, his left foot keeps kicking out, and his right foot kicks to the left side at the same time. Aizen's face changed slightly. Obviously, he felt that the speed and strength of this kick were at least several times stronger than before, so he had to deal with it seriously. He raised his Zanpakuto and kicked Ju Nanbai's super flying white to resist. Live. Boom. The teachings collided, and a deep hole appeared in the ground beneath Aizen's feet with a strong force and a loud bang. Super Phantom Flash. Ju Nanbai was not discouraged when he saw that his attack was blocked. He retracted his left foot and kicked again, but this time it was no longer a flying white kick and a super flying white kick, but a dazzling yellow-green phantom flash. Bounding the way. 81. Breaking the sky. Seeing that he was about to be submerged by the yellow-green flicker, Aizen didn't dare to try his own body. After all, he still didn't know who his body was. The so-called undead body, and he also faintly felt the threat from Ju Nanbai's super phantom body. Therefore, it is also out of the void. With his current strength, it is easy to use the void, and abandoning the singing of the void is the same as the defensive power of the complete singing. Boom. At the moment when Duan Kong appeared, the super virtual flash had already hit Duan Kong's body, and a huge explosion appeared. The terrifying spiritual pressure seemed to blow up the surrounding space with the explosion. Form rippling away. Broken down number 90, Black Coffin. Lan Ran was broken by Lu Qingkong before, but Jinghua Shuiyu was backlashed. If it wasn't for Bengyu's power to bear him, where would he be able to exert his full strength now? At most only he can only play 50 to 60%, so now he is not as confident in Jinghua Shuiyu as before. Who knows if this Ju Nanbai created by Lu Qingkong will also master the method of cracking Jinghua Shuiyu. He doesn't want to be attacked again, not to mention that he who thinks he has mastered the power of Bengyu, is already addicted to the power of Bengyu among them. The power of Bengyu is considered to be the most advanced, and the power of the god of death in his past is far worse. So she didn't use Kyoka Shueyu even more. After all, her Kyoka Shueyu, whether Shikai or Benkai's abilities, act on people who have been hypnotized and can't crack Kyoka Shueyu. He didn't want to hypnotize Ju Nanbai, then use Benkai to deal with Ju Nanbai, and then be attacked by Kyoka Shueyu after being cracked. You must know that when Benkai's words were cracked using Kyoka Shueyu, the degree of backlash was not comparable to Shikai's time. Seeing that Jinanbai was surrounded by black coffins and was about to endure the attack of thousands of swords, Mako Hirako and the others were planning to make a move, and Hiyori rushed out immediately, completely forgetting the difference in strength, but all they were pulled back by Lu Chengkong, and they were relieved to see Lu Chengkong's calm appearance. After all, they also know that Ju Nanbai is already Lu Chengkong's wife. Lu Chengkong's biggest advantage is that he is good to his wife. How can Ju Nanbai be in trouble? So no matter how anxious he is in his heart, he doesn't rush out anymore. However, he still looked nervously at Ju Nanbai surrounded by black coffins. Haha, I've already entered the second stage of collapsing jade. The power of the black coffin has been greatly improved. Even if you don't die, the ghost path of number 90 will be seriously injured. Lan Ran said proudly. Transform, Kamen Rider. At this moment, Ju Nanbai's delicate and pleasant voice sounded in the black coffin, but her words of returning to the blade made Lu Chengkong speechless for a while. Ju Nanbai didn't have a mask before. Not only does it look like Masked Rider when it is broken, but the spirit of words is related to Masked Rider. Boom. After returning to the blade, Ju Nanbai, whose comprehensive strength has soared by more than 10 or 20 times, forcibly smashed the black coffin of the black cube with a super virtual flash, and also showed her appearance after returning to the blade. Because Ju Nanbai's death deification has reached the limit of Vastad, her appearance has not changed much after the nobleman, except for a mysterious red rune mark that is very commensurate with Ju Nanbai's forehead, that is a bracelet-sized red cuff appeared on each of her wrists and ankles. I have a bad feeling. Lu Chengkong suddenly said to Nelly Lu, making Nelly Lu immediately enter a state of battle, obviously thinking that what Lu Chengkong said was something dangerous. That's not what I meant. The bad premonition I said was not related to danger, but to Ju Nanbai. Lu Chengkong continued to lie on the beach chair, but it was Zhang Nili's jade body in her arms. Eased her tense nerves and said, "It's hard for me to explain it for a while, but I don't dare to say it must be the case. Let's see what Bai Guiran's ability is after." Although I don't know what Lu Chengkong was talking about, Nelly L, who made her nervous for a while, couldn't help but give Lu Chengkong a wink. She has always been very beautiful and refined, and the incomparably clear Nelly L suddenly revealed. Lu Chengkong's fascination with such a coquettish side instantly made him giggled. Go on, Aizen, I said that I would avenge their revenge for them. After returning to the blade, Ju Nanbai's eyes became extremely cold. Not only that, but her eyes became red all over at some point. Like 2 rubies. It depends on your ability. Aizen, who has already been involved in the battle, and who has also recognized Ju Nanbai's strength, is not as angry as before. Instead, he really wants to speed up his evolution through the battle with Ju Nanbai. At the same time, I also want to see how Ju Nanbai dares to let go of such arrogance. 655-656 Ju Nanbai's special ability to return to the blade. You'll know right away. Ju Nanbai stepped on the ground with one foot, and the ground that had already formed a deep pit under his feet was hit again by Ju Nanbai's foot strength, which immediately made the deep pit deeper, and even more it was huge, as if a basin was about to form. At the same time, using the rebounded power, Ju Nanbai flew on this basis and made a loud turn. The speed was even more amazing. It almost appeared in front of Aizen like a ghost, and a flying scud kicked it for a long time. On Nanbai's chest. The sudden force made Aizen's complexion, who thought he had evolved twice, completely change his face, and his chest was sunken. The gulf just stopped. Why are there only these few tricks that come and go for nothing? Doesn't he have powerful tricks like Grimjow's claws of the Panther King and the King of the Panthers? After returning to the blade, Ju Nanbai's comprehensive strength has obviously improved qualitatively, especially Ju Nanbai's right foot. The strength contained in the kicked foot is extremely frightening, but the number of such simple kicks exceeds twice. It's very easy for a god of death with rich combat experience like Aizen to avoid and deal with it, and it can't play a lethal effect at all. What's more, Hiriko Mako also knows that Aizen can still use Bengyu to not evolve, unless Ju Nanbai shows the power that can make Aizen's heart terrified and shocked, otherwise Bengyu will never withdraw these powers. After all, the collapse jade is to detect from the host's psychology and to detect whether the host's power has weakened, etc. It is obvious that such a kick alone can't do anything, and it may even help Aizen and let Aizen. With the power of Bengyu's continuous evolution, Hiriko Mako couldn't help but ask. No, Siphon Yuan Yei, who had been with Jinin by day and night in 6,000 days, could be regarded as teaching Jinin by and fighting with Jinin in the daytime. She stood up and said, obviously she came with Jininbai, and she was the most present at the scene. A person who knows Jininbai's ability, he said this, which made Hiyori's face even more worried. How could that be? Lu Chengkong, didn't you say that Bai Zaishu's talent is very high? Why did she not understand the corresponding 3 abilities at the 2 levels of Achukas and Vastord? Although Hiriko Mako was also worried, as the leader of the masked army, and he was the first to know that Ju Nanbai had become a virtual reality, he calmly analyzed the key points. You don't have to worry, Bai can be said to be a relatively special Daxu. She has never comprehended any powerful attacking tricks from Yachukas to the completely deadly Vastador Peak. It can be said that she is the most elusive. The strong ones are just Wang Shu's Flash and Super Virtual Flash. Siphon Yuan Yi said with a chuckle, but aside from Lu Chengkong and Nelly Lu, the others became more and more worried, but she has 5 forms. At this moment, Siphon Yuan Yi suddenly threw a sentence from behind, making everyone's worries dissipated invisibly. Watching Siphon Yuan Yi make everyone's worries dissipated invisibly, looking at the smile at Siphon Yuan Yi's feet, she obviously knew that she deliberately left this sentence until the end. What kind of species change? Hiyori, who was the most anxious, didn't care about Siphon Yuan's night playing with himself, and hurriedly asked. Almighty, Azure Dragon, Pegasus, Titan, Ultimate. Siphon Yuan Yi stared at Rishiri for a while, knowing that when Rishili was anxiously preparing to ask again, Siphon Yuan Yi came slowly. After he threw out 10 words late, he was silent. Looking at Ju Nanbai, she obviously told Hiyori that if she wanted to know what the 10 words she said meant, just look at it with her own eyes. Although Hiyori was also curious, she forcibly endured the thought in her heart. Curiosity followed to look at Ju Nanbai. Hiriko Mako and the others seemed to be aroused by curiosity and looked at Ju Nanbai seriously, and even Zanaki Kenpachi was not sleeping and looked at this little girl with interest and interest. What skills and what was special? I'm sorry if you only have this level of attack. Such an attack can only be effective once at most. Aizen stood up, her sunken chest bulging out. Obviously this level of attack can't really be true. Of hurting him fundamentally. A flip, an all-around flying kick. Ju Nanbai was indeed not discouraged at all. He jumped into the air and performed a somersault, kicking Aizen with faster and stronger speed and strength than before. The 63 of the Destruction, Thunder Roar Cannon. He Aizen is a Zanpakudo, Kendo, Ghost Dao Major, Baida and Shunpo Minor. How can his attainment on the track be poor? Plus the collapse with the blessing of Jade's power. The yellow thunder and lightning blasts were launched from Aizen's right palm, entangling Ju Nanbai all at once. You don't seem to give up overspeed regeneration in exchange for stronger attack power, but even if you overspeed regeneration again, with your current strength at the level of Vastord, overspeed regeneration is at best without damaging your brain and internal organs. Carry out super speed regeneration. The thunder roar of mine just now has caused indistinct damage to your body, and you are defeated. Aizen wore a victory smile on his face, as if the goddess of victory would always stand by his side. Why are you more idiot than Junzi? You like to preach so much, why didn't you become a teacher? You must have been very good when you did it in Junyang Spiritual Arts Academy. Why did you defect? With a small mouth, Ju Nanbai said angrily, making Lu Chengkong burst out laughing. Feel. But he really wasn't wrong. Eisen did have the habit of lecturing, and I wonder if it was too suffocating when he was an undercover agent. Therefore, he has developed the habit of preaching himself. He often likes to show off and preach about the original book, especially for Kurosaki Ichigo. Moreover, when Eisen didn't defect, Eisen really went to the True Central Spiritual Arts Academy to be a tutor. He always vented his grievances, and Eisen's face, who was told by Ju Nanbai, suddenly turned blue and purple. In the thick smoke, Ju Nanbai walked out, but what Eisen couldn't believe was that Ju Nanbai, who had even his thunder roar in front of him, was not injured at all. You must know that although he has not yet reached the level of the primary level of Skrido, he is also entering the second stage of the collapse of Jade. How could it not surprise Lan Ran that the ghost of number 63, who was faked out, was unharmed to her? 656, 657 5 Forms of Fierce Battle and Collapse 1. However, Eisen's power of observation is obviously very strong, and he soon noticed the unusualness of Jininbai. The appearance of Jininbai who came out of the thick smoke did not seem to have changed much, and he was still the reader's cute little mouth. Watery innocent eyes. It's just that the red mysterious rune mark on her forehead turned purple, and the bracelet-sized red wristbands on her wrists and ankles of her feet also became her own. The Eisen immediately guessed that this should be a kind of ability that Kunin Baiwastad or Achukas realized. It was not only Eisen who discovered this, but also Lu Chengkong, Nellie L., Hiyori, Hirako Mako, Urahara Kazuki Yu, Zaragi Kenpachi and Yamamoto Old Man. Obviously they are all against Saifeng Yuan Yaiki. The 5 special morphological changes of Ju Nanbai are very curious. Especially after seeing that Ju Nanbai was unscathed in the face of Eisen, who was stronger than her, he was even more itchy after eating Eisen's thunder roar cannon. What is the mystery? You found out. Ju Nanbai saw Eisen staring at his wristband and the rune mark on his forehead, and immediately knew that he had guessed nothing and admitted it generously. At the same time, he turned to face a victory gesture was raised in the direction where Lu Chengkong was, and Lu Chengkong was amused by that cute, innocent performance and action. This is the Titan. Lu Chengkong recalled those 10 words, and the only one who could withstand the thunder roar cannon that was stronger than himself without hurting him was the only one who changed his form. Clever, he really deserves to be my Yi-Yi's husband. Sifeng Yuan Yi-Yi, like a kitten who has been pregnant all the time, suddenly got into Lu Chengkong's arms, occupying the general position of Nellie Lu, a little arrogant. Said. Is this your special skill? Eisen had already lost interest, and planned to lose Ju Nanbai, but now she suddenly saw this ability and asked curiously, after all, the highly talented Daxu generally realize that all of them are the ability to enhance strength or destructive power, and this ability to improve defense power rarely occurs. You can say that, but I think you should prepare yourself mentally. With the right hand of Ju Nanbai, the air was turbulent, and a long sword with a length of 111 centimeters appeared in Ju Nanbai's hand. With Jininbai in his hand, the front section of the long sword suddenly stretched, becoming 120 centimeters long. When it was read just now, it was in the omnipotent form, but now it is Bai's weapon in the form of a Titan, the Titan Divine Sword. In this state, Bai's attack power and defense power will be strengthened and improved. Chengkong said in a whimpering voice. Wait, if that's the case, isn't Ju Nanbai very powerful? She has 5 kinds of changes, and the others only have 3 abilities. Grimjow immediately raised his own question as a phantom. 5 changes, doesn't it mean that Ju Nanbai has different abilities from himself, Ulquioricifer and other phantoms? It's not a special phantom and attack tricks or a 2-stage return blade or the like. It's so stupid. Use your own eyes to see what is different about Bai who has entered this state change. Saifeng Yuan Yi said angrily. Sure enough, Grimjow and the others took a closer look and found that although Jininbai and Eisen had been slashing each other, although the attack power and defense power were much higher than before, their movements were a bit slow, so to speak. It seems that the speed of a certain action has been weakened and the attack power and defense power have been strengthened. Understood. If the 5 morphological changes are perfect to improve one's quality, and at the same time will not affect other aspects, then of course it will be unbalanced, but Ju Nanbai's morphological changes are obviously selected according to different timings. Changes can have a lethal effect. For example, using a Titan whose attack power and defense power increase to resist powerful unique moves will be much better. The 5 forms of change are used alternately in combination. Means of combat. Quote. Saifeng Yuan Yaiki said softly, but Hiriko Mako and others clearly noticed that Saifeng Yuan Yaiki was a little bit insincere, as if there was something else hidden. Some smart people such as Urahara Kazuki, Hiriko Mako and his like recalled the names of the 5 physical changes. When thinking of the word, ultimate, a flash of understanding flashed in his eyes, as if he understood something. I thought it was some kind of powerful ability, but it turned out that it made the movement sluggish in exchange for stronger attack power and defense power. This kind of ability is nothing to be commended. Aizen, who fought with Ju Nanbai, was the fastest to understand when I came to the inadequacy of the Titan form, I suddenly said disappointedly. Really? Calamity Giant. Ju Nanbai suddenly isho, which made Lan Ran's heart sink. Sure enough, with a low voice, Ju Nanbai suddenly stabbed out the Titan Divine Sword in his hand, and the speed was many times faster than before. It was as fast as thunder, and many gods of death only saw a purple light flashing in their eyes. Ju Nanbai's Titan Divine Sword had already pierced into Aizen's chest. Not only that, but the force of the Titan Divine Sword's thrusting was obviously great. After penetrating through Aizen's chest, it directly knocked him out. Grimjiao and others, who were a little disappointed to hear that the 5 form changes would be insufficient, saw the sudden and amazing sword completely different from the previous speed, which was much faster and slower, let alone power. That is, the speed is much faster than the speed of the previous red all-around form, and I couldn't help taking a breath. Could it be that the 5 forms of Ju Nanbai all have unique skills that complement that form? Nellie Alu said with a glint in her eyes. That's right, just now was Bai Zai's Nirvana in the form of a Titan, the Calamity Giant, which burst out with astonishing power and speed. Saifeng Yuan nodded slightly, apparently Ju Nanbai had already used it when he was fighting with her. Many times, so she is very familiar with this trick. Hee. Don't underestimate Bai's abilities because of her inadequacies in her 5 forms. In my opinion, these 5 forms of Bai will definitely not be better than any other talented Daxu in Vashi. The 3 abilities that Todd and Achukas comprehended at the time were poor, and even in some cases, the 5 forms of White were more applicable and could cope with many situations. Quote. Saifeng Yuan Yei obviously regarded Ju Nanbai as his own disciple. After all, he also thought that she would teach Ju Nanbai for more than 6,000 days, how could he have no feelings at all? Lan Ran glanced down at the big hole in the chest, and cried out in disbelief, kneeling on the ground, as if she would die at any time, but only Lu Chengkong knew that Lan Ran would soon undergo collapse and jade transformation. The 3rd stage. 657, 658 5 forms of fierce battle and collapse of jade 2. You can't do anything right now, dare to look down on me, huh, you know how powerful Bai is. Ju Nanbai made a face at Lan Ran. Titan sword, she would really be fooled by her innocent behavior. Suddenly, Lan Ran roared in the sky, and the jade in the chest flowed from time to time with a crystal clear luster, covering Lan Ran's body. A purple spiritual pressure beam burst into the sky, and the chest that was penetrated was actually with a blood. A deep purple light appeared instead, and the big hole in the chest that was penetrated began to shrink. Obviously, Aizen has evolved again. Ju Nanbai also blocked it. Obviously, Saifeng Yuan Yei had explained to her before she came. It is not difficult for her to fight Aizen with her current strength, but it is impossible to defeat Aizen or kill Aizen. Unless you can break through and break the limit between yourself and the god of death in the battle with Aizen, it is impossible to defeat and kill Aizen, so how could Ju Nanbai stop Aizen? Has it been the 3rd time? How many times has he evolved? Why is he uglier each time? Forget it. Such evolution is simply a deformed body formed by forced changes by external forces. It's better not to be better. Bai pursed his mouth and said in his heart as he watched Aizen's appearance begin to change again. When the purple reiki was scattered, Aizen's forehead had a slit. The eyebrows were lost, and the hem of the clothes became a one-piece shape. At the same time, 3 pairs of huge butterflies were born on the back. It seems that my choice is right. Fighting with you will not only relieve my curiosity about your abilities, but also make my evolution faster, make me and Ryu fit better, and make Benyu understand me better. Heart. After entering the 3rd stage of Collapse Jade, Aizen became more and more confident. Even beyond the limit of self-confidence, there is a kind of arrogance. Obviously, although this kind of power that does not belong to him has Benyu assisting him so that he can control it, his heart has indeed fallen, and his mind is somewhat blinded by power. HMPH, just using your mouth to say it's for servile use, you see, the more you look ugly. Ju Nanbai Jiao snorted, glanced at Lan Ran sarcastically, and said. The process of evolution is inherently ugly. Aizen didn't care at all and even seemed to be stating the truth. The two were not only a battle of strength, but also a battle of words. When a black-bellied girl meets a scheming guy, it's really powerful. Pingzi Junzi muttered to himself, but Lu Chengkong, including Lu Chengkong, nodded in agreement when he heard Pingzi's words. Evolution. Then let me see what's different after you cage H7. Don't just talk and practice, you can't do it well. Ju Nanbai said sarcastically. You'll know right away. As Aizen spoke, a strong light flashed from the Benyu in his chest. Immediately, Aizen disappeared directly in place, as if moving in space, directly in front of Ju Nanbai, and stabbed with a knife. Ju Nanbai's pupils shrank. He looked down at his stomach in disbelief. It was actually pierced by Aizen's Zanpakudo. She is very clear about her defense. Almost in Titan's form changes, it is almost the strongest defense among his 5 form changes, but such a defense was suddenly pierced by Aizen's Zanpakudo. Isn't it incredible? What's the big deal about Ning? Every time I evolve, my strength will be greatly improved. Just now you can still fight with me for a while because of my unfamiliarity with your ability. But now your strength, the gap between the two can't be made up by these small means. You have lost your due value. Goodbye, Ju Nanbai. Aizen seemed to be satisfied with Jinnenbai's surprised look, and said as if he was winning. At the same time, he pulled out his Zanpakudo and faced Jinnenbai with one hand. Fall. An incomparably huge burst of flames was immediately released from Lan Rong's right hand. After the 3rd stage of the Collapse Jade transformation, the power of the Blue Dye Ghost Road is obviously more powerful. The high-temperature explosive fireball caused the nearby air to distort directly and slammed into Ju Nanbai's body, burning and exploding. Are you really a servant? In the old world, after seeing Aizen getting stronger again, the color of worry that had been suppressed just now resurfaced. Have you forgotten? There are 3 other forms of Bai, and if the young eagle wants to soar above the 9 heavens in the cruel world, it has to experience the tempering of wind and rain, and the battle of life and death. Lu Chengkong waved his hand to indicate the service. In fact, he had been secretly locked in the battle between Ju Nanbai and Aizen. Once it reached a certain level, he would definitely take action. Maybe it's his mentality that allowed him to become a god of death in the first place, and he has developed a super solid foundation at an amazing speed and has continuously improved his strength without any fluctuation. Jinglekin pressed his hat and heard Lu Chengkong's words. I thought about that sentence. Did he die? Lan Ran smiled, and just as he was about to turn around to find Lu Chengkong and others, a sharp sound of breaking through the air suddenly sounded, causing him to swing a knife backwards without thinking. The sound of swords colliding suddenly sounded, and Aizen turned around in surprise. He obviously couldn't feel the spiritual pressure of Ju Nanbai. Why did Ju Nanbai die when he was still in service? Not only that, the weapon in Ju Nanbai's hand turned into a long blue stick. The strength seemed to have weakened, but the speed was many times faster. Want to kill me? It's still early. The rune mark on Ju Nanbai's forehead has changed from purple to blue, and the color of the wrist guards of his hands and feet has also changed to blue. The Titan's caliber in his hand also turned into a blue dragon stick, and apparently he entered model, Seryu from the Titan form. I understand, is its speed. In this form, your speed and flexibility have been greatly improved, but the power of your fists and feet has weakened a lot. You escaped my Shuanglian Kanghuahui with this speed. As Aizen said, Bengyu flashed a strong light again. After passing through the space, he came directly to Ju Nanbai and used the same attack again, but this time Ju Nanbai disappeared in place like a ghost and avoided Aizen's attack. Not only that, but after escaping Aizen's attack, Ju Nanbai moved around Aizen at an amazing speed while maintaining a super high speed while using his blue dragon stick to greet Aizen for a while. It seemed that the god of death just saw a ghostly shadow flashing around Aizen's body. Your strength has dropped so much, although it has been exchanged for my current speed, but it is useful. Even if you hit me with this level of strength, it won't hurt me in the slightest. Aizen said slightly sarcastically, and at the same time, her eyes flashed. Her left hand stretched out the blue dragon stick that directly held Ju Nanbai and forcibly stopped her ultra-high-speed movement. It indicates Aizen's determination to kill this time. 658, 659 5 Forms of Fierce Battle and Collapse 3. Die! Aizen shouted loudly, and the Zanpakuto in his hand stabbed directly at Ju Nanbai's head, but the latter was not worried at all. Instead, he showed a sly smile. In my heart, I also shouted a green dragon strike. Just when Aizen's Zanpakuto was about to stab into Jinnenbai's head, the blue dragon stick that was pinched by Aizen escaped directly like a slippery snake that didn't hold back, and then followed Jinnenbai's rotation. In the eyes of others, the azure dragon stick seemed to have turned into a blue-colored Jiaolong and directly met Aizen's Zanpakuto. Wei K** Qinglong strike as model, Seryu's stunt. The instant burst of super fast speed and explosive power make up for the lack of strength, but her strength is far from Aizen after all, and it exploded on the ground when she hit the ground. After a big pit, after a circle of ripples exploded in the air, Ju Nanbai was pushed and flew hundreds of meters away, but the strange thing is that Ju Nanbai was not only frustrated, but revealed that he succeeded in a trick. The pattern made Aizen's heart sank for Vivi. Sure enough, the blue rune mark on Ju Nanbai's forehead and the wrist guards on his hands and feet had turned green at the next moment, and at the same time the green dragon stick in his hand turned into a green crossbow. Obviously, Ju Nanbai fits her previous mask very well. Without breaking the appearance of Masked Rider, he transformed again. Where to go? Although he didn't know what was going on, Lan Ran had a feeling that he could never let Ju Nanbai attack, especially when Ju Nanbai entered the Pegasus form, and when he was holding the Pegasus crossbow, he had a special feeling. He doesn't like the feeling that his soul is locked with nothing to hide, and the best way to get rid of this feeling is to kill Ju Nanbai. Therefore, Aizen is no longer holding the heart of testing his evolved strength and detecting Ju Nanbai's ability, but he is going all out. Speed and power are not directly comparable. He can completely kill Ju Nanbai with an absolute overwhelming advantage. It's too late, Aizen, Swift Wind and Heavenly Horse. Ju Nanbai said in a coquettish voice. Unreserved murderous aura emanated from her bluntness. Jade moves in space and at the same time strengthens the special form of vision, hearing, smell and other senses with its Pegasus form. When he entered the state of mental hyperconcentration, he immediately caught Aizen's figure and locked him completely. A green, sharp arrow-like energy body burst out of the air. Obviously, this is the strongest form of Shi and Nanbai's horses. One blow, Heavenly Horse. Flutter P4. The disappearing blue die appeared directly 30 meters in front of Ju Nanbai, but there was a small hole in his head, and he stared at Ju Nanbai with wide eyes. Huh. Ju Nanbai breathed softly, from the Pegasus form back to the Red Almighty form. Obviously, the Pegasus form just now was too exhausting, and it could be maintained for a very short time. No, impossible, you can actually keep up with my speed. Aizen said intermittently, but he understood after seeing Ju Nanbai returning to the red all-around form. The form of Ju Nanbai just now should only be maintained for a very short period of time, even for a few seconds. It greatly strengthened the senses of the 5 senses, etc., in exchange for the strongest blow that completely locked the target, and then soon to be back to normal. It can be said that in this state, if there is no need to use the tip, the consumption is too high. Therefore, he fully understands what is going on. The purpose of the Qinglong strike just now is to slow down his movement Vivi. At the same time, he will knock him flying by himself. The force that goes out pulls the distance. Unleash a one-hit kill. Looks like you've figured it out. I made a mistake. My Pegasus form can only be maintained for 5 seconds. If it exceeds 5 seconds, no matter if I attack or not, I will directly recover from the state of exiting and returning to the time when I did not return. You cannot return to the blade within an hour. Zhu Nanbai was panting heavily. Obviously, even if she could keep returning to the blade, that one blow just now took all her energy. The strongest blow that her energy earned was precisely because of this, that it could hurt Aizen. Ha ha. Lan Ran twitched the corners of his mouth miserably, revealing an ugly smile, and then suddenly there was a sound of clothes being forcibly torn from his body. A third eye-like crack appeared on his forehead. The human-shaped face and clothes disappeared. The head was covered with white and middle black tones on both sides. The eyes were slender, and the entire row of teeth was exposed. Black cone-shaped. There are 3 virtual holes in a row in the chest. The center of the top hole is Benyu, and there are 3 pairs of very thick giant butterfly wings. The tip of each wing has something like a virtual face. There is a black eye on the face. The ends of the wings form the shape of a tail, and the tips of the wings have hollow faces. If the appearance of Aizen just now is acceptable, Aizen in this state is simply affecting the vision of the general public, but let's not say that the Aizen that has evolved again has far surpassed Zhu Nanbai's strength. It's even scarier now. I am immortal. I have evolved to a level beyond what you can understand, as if the second dimension cannot interfere with the third dimension. At this time, it looked like a virtual blue-dyed voice. It became heavy and appeared a little hoarse. In order to express my gratitude to you, I will use the fully singing version of the Black Coffin to turn you into ashes from now on, and now you have no fear and let me evolve again. The turbid coat of arms is faintly revealed, and Rong Yu's indomitable and arrogant talent. Tide, negation, paralysis, moment. Hinder long sleep. A crawling iron princess. A clay doll that keeps self-mutilating. Combining, rebounding, and extending to the ground. Know your own powerlessness. The purple Reiatsu was burning like a flame on him. Quick. It's too fast. Even if she sings completely, Zhu Nanbai has no time to escape. It should be said that no matter where she goes, Aizen's black coffin can instantly trap him, creating many black cubes with black crosses on the top. The space of Zhu Nanbai was surrounded and sealed inside in an instant. A gravitational torrent that can distort even time and space is raging in the space, apparently to devour and destroy Zhu Nanbai. Oops, something may happen to Bai now. Saifeng Yuan Yei's expression changed slightly, and the development of the situation exceeded her expectations. She thought that Benyu would evolve Aizen to this point. At this time, Jianyu, the strength of Aizen's 4th stage of transformation, has completely broken the limit of death and emptiness. Although it's not as good as the real Scredo Elementary, it's only 1 step behind. How could Jinnenbai, who is only at the peak of Vastord, be the follower of Aizen, and he is still a black coffin that sings completely? 659, 660 Ichimaru Jin's happiness. Snapped. Lu Chengkong grabbed Saifeng Yuan Yei and looked at her puzzled eyes. Lu Chengkong grinned. Isho, have you forgotten the spiritual power I gave to Zhu Nanbai? Actually, I made preparations there. As long as Zhu Nanbai has not yet turned into his own spiritual pressure and has completely mastered it down to the point where I can control the spiritual power in his body to save her life with a single thought. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The 5 morphological changes in the blue dye battle, especially after the 3rd stage of the collapse of Jade, there is not much head-on battle. This is the real highlight. Although it is dangerous, it is not an opportunity. How is the crisis composed? Danger and opportunity. If Zhu Nanbai really did not disappoint me and fully showed her illusory talents, even if she retreated in the face of disappointment, this time with the spiritual power I gave her as a stamina, she might be able to. Breaking the limits of void and death between life and death. Quote. So it is. Saifeng Yuan Yi was completely relieved, and at the same time, she couldn't help but glanced at Lu Chenghong coquettishly. It turned out that she had so many preparations, why didn't she say it earlier, and she was worrying in vain. Incomparably, at the same time looking at Lu Chenghong with eyes full of love and spring affection. Although Lu Chenghong doesn't treat her like this, it doesn't mean that Lu Chenghong treats his wives very well. He has done a lot of protective measures in secret, and even a Junan Bailiu Chenghong who is far less emotional than her treats her so well. Well, if it's called her, she'll definitely be better for herself. How could Saifeng Yuan Yi not be sweet with such an idea? In fact, it is more than Saifeng Yuan Yi who has this idea. Even Nellie Lu, who has always been quiet and calm like a goddess in Lu Chenghong's arms, is now looking at Lu Chenghong with watery and tender eyes. The depths are full of love and admiration that cannot be concealed. Hey, Eisen couldn't help showing a sneer while looking at the cube black coffin that was ignoring the cross. With his current strength, the black coffin of number 90 fully chanted to exert all the power of the black coffin of number 90. With Jininbai's current strength as not to mention surviving, it is already very good to be able to leave a few remains. Almighty, Titan, Azure Dragon, and the last Pegasus, there are 4 forms. It's a pity that I can't see your last one, but it doesn't matter. As a witness to me on the road to becoming a god, you can die in possession of a god. It is your honor to have the power in my hands. Quote. Blue-dyed clothes said in a tone that you can easily die, it looks really arrogant, too self-righteous, make up for his strength at this time to face Ju Nanbai who is now trapped in the black coffin by her, indeed has arrogant capital. Did you lose? Ichi-sensei, your strength should be able to save her, so it's my turn to take action. Ichimaru Jin's narrowed eyes flashed a dangerous light, and a pair of fists hidden in the wide cuffs quietly between has been clenched. Boom! Just as Ichimaru Jin was about to make a move, a black beam of light suddenly rose from the top of the black coffin behind Eisen. This beam of light gave people a feeling that the boundless darkness would swallow everything up. What's the matter? The changes behind him, the changes coming from the black coffin, made him have to stop walking towards Lu Chenghong's side, turned around and looked at the man who gave him a sense of crisis all the time, as if there is a spiritual pressure like a sharp knife placed in front of your heart. This spiritual pressure is getting stronger and stronger, and it seems that the black coffin is swallowed up in the end, and the black coffin is completely shattered under this danger. At this time, did you make a breakthrough? Could it be that this is what you did when you let Jininbai and Eisen fight? Ichimaru Yin found that he was skeptical at the beginning, fearful, took advantage of, and used it to the end. People who sincerely regard Lu Chenghong as their teacher admire very much, every step has his meaning. For example, when she knew that she was going to take revenge and stay by Aizen's side, she would let herself keep a low profile and become stronger under Aizen's eyelids. Now that Jininbai and Eisen fight, it is so that Jininbai can do to make a breakthrough, he will first go to what he saw around him. He found that he was really lucky, and he was very lucky to have such a teacher. Bai, you really didn't disappoint me. You are even better than Hannibal in terms of illusory talent. A satisfied smile finally appeared on Lu Chenghong's face. Feeling the rising spiritual pressure, Zengi Kenpachi showed his fighting intent. Hirako Meiko was completely relieved, and Kuchiki Shanghai was happy for Lu Chenghong. There is also curiosity about the last morphological change of Ju Nanbai. With his wisdom, he of course guessed that Ju Nanbai had never used the last form called Ultimate, which was definitely different from the previous 4, especially this dangerous Reiatsu, which determined his idea. Then what about baby Nailu? Saifeng Yuan Yi asked curiously. If Lu Chenghong's talent training speed in the aspect of death is the highest and fastest among all Lu Chenghong's wives, then the practice in the virtual aspect is the highest and fastest. The talent is well deserved as Nellie L. This position has never been shaken by anyone. Bachinliu and Maojawali are not counted. Maojawali is the first human being in the death god world, and the first person to change from a human to a death god, and then to break the limit of existence, and Bachinliu itself has a talent that is against the sky. The existence of the rank, coupled with the full-strength teaching of Ujawali, it is unreasonable that the improvement is not fast. Nilu has never devoured a single great void from the peak of a Chukastawasta Doskrito to the beginning. Does Lu Chengkong have a direct answer? But his words have already shown that his opinion also includes his answer. Obviously he said that Zhu Nanbai is very powerful in the talent of cultivation, but it is still a little bit worse than Nellie Lu. Nellie L just pursed her lips and Isho didn't show the slightest complacent look. Maybe it didn't matter to her. Come out. Saifeng Yuan Yi nodded happily after getting his own answer, and at the same time, his eyes flashed at Zhu Nanbai's location. Click. At the same time, countless cracks appeared on the surface of the huge black coffin, and after a click, the whole black coffin was shattered, and all the secrets inside were revealed. She actually survived. Impossible, she is only the strength of the peak of Vastord. How could she survive the attack of me, a higher life form that broke the limit of death and imaginary? Aizen shook her head, directly denied the idea, but what his eyes saw in front of him made him unable to refute it. Zhu Nanbai came out from the inside, except that her clothes were a little creased when she saw the alien, and the positions of her hands and feet were a little damaged and looked a little worn out. At least it was certain that Zhu Nanbai had eaten the black coffin. After that, it didn't turn into ashes as he expected.